to allow people and to manage in general.
Deepakji, please make me a host.
So I shall also be sharing one PowerPoint with you. So in that case, whatever is required technically, please do the same.
Sir, at that time you have to do share the screen. Sir, Mukherjee sir, you have to do share screen at that time.
I think we can start now.
Yes.
Yes.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Medha madam, you can start.
Yes, ma'am. Namo Namaha. Hardam Swagatam, Suswagatam. Good morning, everyone. It gives me immense pleasure to extend to you a very warm welcome on behalf of the Department of Sanskrit, University of Mumbai, who has clubbed all of us for the international seminar on yoga theory and practice. Hello, I am Dr. Medha Deshpande and I feel privileged to welcome you all on the behalf of Department of Sanskrit. Now, we are starting the third session. I welcome Dr. Jayaraman Mahadevan as a chairperson of this session. Welcome, sir. On this occasion, it gives me a great pleasure to introduce our chairperson for today. He will effectively take you through the proceedings. Dr. Jayaraman holds a PhD in Sanskrit from the University of Madras on the topic The Doctrine of Tantra Yukti, a study. He meritoriously completed his undergraduate and postgraduate degrees in Sanskrit with gold medal and first rank in both the degrees. Prior to that, he underwent traditional Gurukula education in Vedas, Vedanta, and Yoga Shastra 1998 to 2005 in Veda Vijnana Gurukulam, Bangalore, under Pracharya Kotimani Ramachandra Bhatt, former VC, Yoga University. He is currently serving as the Professor and Dean, Division of Yoga and Spirituality, Deemed University. Earlier served as the Director, Research Department of Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram, Chennai, for a decade, and Director of Division of Textual Research in Yoga, Indic Academy. His work in the field of textual aspects of yoga involves editing, translating, and disseminating inputs from traditional Sanskrit literature on yoga. Thus far, he has published 20 books and 19 peer-reviewed journal articles on yoga and Sanskrit literature in Indian and international research journals. He is also involved in developing immersive learning methods of yoga text and digital repositories for yoga text. His workshops on Tantra Yukti, ancient Indian thesis or text construction methodology, are well received. His expertise in the field of yoga, academics, and research has been recognized and utilized by various academic and research organizations by nominating him to various academic boards and councils, including the Traditional Knowledge Digital Lab Library, Government of India, Kalakshetra Foundation, Governing Board Member, Ministry of Culture, Government of India, Chennai, Indian Yoga Association, and Kavikula Guru Kalidas, Sanskrit University, Ramatek. He received Samskrita Grantha Puraskara in 2021 from Karnataka Sanskrit University for his Sanskrit book Mantra Artha Chintanam. I request Dr. Jayaraman to chair this session.
Pranamaha. Dhanyawadaha.
Namo Namaha, sir. I
Dhanyawadaha.
request yes. Today we have three speakers who will be presenting their thoughts on yoga. Dr. Rajeshwar Mukherjee, Dr. Vaishali Dabke, and Dr. Ashish Phadke. I request all the speakers kindly keep the presentations limited to 20 to 25 minutes so that time will be left for discussion. Otherwise, sessions will be delayed. Now I would like to introduce Dr. Rajeshwar Mukherjee. Dr. Rajeshwar Mukherjee is the faculty in the discipline of Hindu and Buddhist Studies at Nalanda International University, Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India. He has earned a PhD degree in the interdisciplinary areas of interfacing physics and Indian philosophy from the Kavikula Guru Kalidas Sanskrit University, Ramatek. He holds a double master's degree, MSc and MA in the subjects physics and Sanskrit respectively. He has been working in the capacity of the Assistant Director of Research for 3 years at the Kaivalya Dham Research Institute, Lonavala, Pune, which runs under the Ministry of Education, Government of India. He has also worked as a research officer there for several years. He discharged the role of lecturer at Kaivalya Dham GS College and Registrar. Dr. Rajeshwar Mukherjee has also been the regular faculty of the School of Indian Heritage at formerly Ramakrishna Mission Vivekananda University, Belur Math, Kolkata. He has also worked as the visiting fellow of the Vedic Vijnana Kendra, Banaras Hindu University and IIT Guwahati. He was invited to the prestigious Copenhagen Business School in Denmark, where he delivered a lecture series. He has authored 6 books, 2 book chapters, and more than 15 research articles in national and international research journals. Today, he is presenting a paper on understanding the cosmopsychism, a perspective of Yoga Sutra. I request Dr. Mukherjee to proceed further. Thank you.
Namaskar. Thank you, madam. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Thank you for the long and nice introduction. Om Krishnaya Vasudevaya Hare Paramatmane Pranata Kleshanashaya Govindaya Namo Namo. The most revered chairman of the session, Professor Jayaraman, the respected head of the department, Sakuntala Madam, respected professors, Madhvi Narsalai Madam, Medha Madam, and all other respected faculty members of Mumbai, of the Department of Sanskrit, Mumbai University, all the other members, technical members who are there, and the people who have joined this platform to interact with all of us and who have given us an opportunity to deliver the lecture before them. My greetings to all of you, and I would like to present the short and brief introduction, brief presentation on the understanding of cosmopsychism in the perspective of Yoga Sutra. At the outset, I would like to mention here that cosmopsychism is a technical paper, or technical project which is being run at Germany by Professor Joachim Kepler. Professor Joachim Kepler basically is a physicist who is working in the area of consciousness studies. And he has been very consistently and has been very sincerely working on these aspects for last 7 and 8 years. One thing which is very good about him is that he has extended due recognition and acknowledgement to the ancient Indian knowledge system. The problem which we have been facing in the last centuries, or rather we can say last few decades, that people have been borrowing the concepts from the ancient Indian knowledge system without making any sort of acknowledgement. And at the same time, there was no recognition for us. Us means our culture, our grand heritage, our knowledge, our profound knowledge system. But now time has changed and people have been working in this field for several years, and people are irresistibly drawn towards, especially the scientists are irresistibly drawn towards the interface of science, or you can say physics, and ancient Indian knowledge system. So what I have tried to do is that I wanted to put the entire thing in a very non-technical way, so that the people who do not have orientation in this field, they can also comprehend, they can also understand properly.
Sorry,
So
sir, Rajeshwarji, sorry to interrupt. You can make your presentation in the presentation mode so that it can be seen better.
Just a minute, sir.
Yeah.
Can you see it right now, sir?
Better, sir, better. But
Yes, sir. We can see it.
yes,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you. So I would like to put the things in a very simple language. As it is said in all the sciences, that the truth is very simple, only the scholars and scientists make the simple things difficult or simple things very complex. Truth is always simple. So I wanted to put the things in a very simple language, and I scissored out the technical parts, the technical concepts related, which was mainly dealt in the language of mathematics for the understanding of the common people. So I will help you to undertake a journey with me from the world of known to the world of unknown. As we all have the background of ancient Indian knowledge system and ancient Indian wisdom, since this is being floated from the Department of Sanskrit, Mumbai University, such a prestigious department. So we will start with the essence of the ancient Indian wisdom. So we all know that consciousness, according to the ancient Indian wisdom, consciousness is the absolute reality. So one of the Mahavakyas, you know, that Prajnanam Brahma. And the next, so it is at the absolute level, which has its manifestation with reference to space, time, and causality. The absolute reality, which is called the Satchidananda, that with reference to space, time, and causality, we find its manifestation in form of the phenomenal world, which is a combination of matter and consciousness. In Yoga Sutra, they say drashti drishyayo samyoga. So there is a combination of matter and consciousness, and matter is also the primordial reality, and consciousness is also the primordial reality for the phenomenal world, not for the absolute. So mainly we will stick to the Sankhya Patanjala system, the 24 cosmic principles of the Sankhya philosophy, and the concept of Mahad as the cosmic mind. All these concepts have been borrowed earlier by a great scientist called Wolfgang Pauli, who can be considered as one of the forefathers of quantum mechanics. So this concept has been borrowed long back without making any reference to Indian system. As a matter of fact, the reality in the phenomenal world is composed of the 24 cosmic principles, starting from Mahat, starting from the Prakriti to the other five Pancha Mahabhutas, etc. And we were mainly interested in the concept of Mahat, which is also equated with Buddhi in the context of Sankhya cosmology. Now the question is that why there is a cosmopsychism, and what is the relevance of cosmopsychism? Why should we undertake such a study of cosmopsychism? Now, cosmopsychism, if we can split into two parts, it will be cosmos and psyche. So we have different models of consciousness available with us, and different models which have been very popular. I am not referring to the models of consciousness which have been projected and upheld by the ancient Indian seers, but the so-called principles and theories of consciousness which we have come across in last 50 years. And one of the most important aspects of that theory of consciousness is that they consider consciousness to be totally material. It is a product of matter. As we come across in the Taittiriya Upanishad, the first realization of Bhrigu and Annadhaiva khulu imani bhutani jayante. So they are stagnated to that level of matter, and they consider the matter to be an epiphenomenon. Epiphenomenon means, or it's an emergent property, consciousness to be an emergent property of matter. At certain point of time, with certain combination, it behaves like conscious elements. So that theory was very popular. And on the other hand, parallelly, we see a very consistent theory of consciousness developed in our system, which we say that consciousness is the reality, prajnanam Brahma. And when we come across in the recent years, the hard problem of consciousness, which has been upheld by Chalmers, and these hard problem of consciousness has been a deadly blow to this material interpretation of consciousness, because he very simply upheld that whenever we have an awareness of certain object, it's not simply a material perception, but how do we become conscious of that? How do we become conscious of that perception which we have perceived? And that has been expressed in terms of qualia, and qualia is said to be the unit of first-hand experience. And these first-hand experience could not be explained by the material interpretations of reality or material interpretations of consciousness, and therefore people started looking back at the ancient Indian scriptures, but they did not accept ancient Indian scriptures as it is, but they referred to a new concept called panpsychism. Panpsychism means that the concept of the existence of matter and consciousness are primordial, and they are fundamental to the creation, fundamental to our material, to our universe. And therefore matter cannot be produced out of consciousness cannot be produced out of matter. But they did not push their idea further as that of the Indian seers, who consider consciousness to be the supreme reality. Now I told you about the Pauli-Jung framework. Pauli-Jung framework, this is a precursor to cosmopsychism. They also suggested, on the basis of Indian wisdom, without acknowledging that consciousness is that matter and consciousness, they have a primordial background, and that background is the conscious and the unconscious. They have a common background, and from these two backgrounds, the physical and the psyche manifest. Now, this theory of cosmopsychism this theory of cosmopsychism has been based on a very, very well-knit philosophy, well-knit scientific theory, which is called the stochastic electrodynamics. The stochastic electrodynamics also had its beginning in the year 1960 and 1970s by Marshall and Boyer, and it is now considered to be an emerging theory, which is the first principle for the principles of quantum mechanics. This has been a potential substitute for the quantum field theory. Now we know about the definitions of yoga. It is said that yoga is the cessation of thought waves and cessation of yoga chitta vritti nirodha. And yoga has also been described as the samadhi or concentration. And how does this concentration arise, and what do we mean by the thought waves? That can be interpreted in terms of Swami Vivekananda's interpretation of Raja Yoga, where he has suggested that the external stimulus come to our senses in form of vibration, and that gets transformed to the nerve current, and nerve current sends it and stimulates the brain centers, and the brain and the mind react to that, those external stimuli obtained, and which is called this reaction of the mind is called reaction of the mind means the chitta. It is called the chitta vritti. And now chitta is not a cosmological evolute. Chitta is a functional unit for this. It's a functional unit, and it is a functional unit. So it contains this mano, buddhi, and ahamkara and sankalpa vikalpa. You all know that sankalpa vikalpa, mana, nishchayatmika, buddhi, and ahamkarta, ahamkara. You know the chitta vrittis. Now I come to the cosmopsychism as it is. The idea of cosmopsychism is that there is an ubiquitous field of consciousness. I don't know if I'll be able to complete it, but still I'm trying to cover all the grounds. So it is said that the cosmopsychism is developed on the assumption that there is an ubiquitous field of consciousness which is called the primordial field, and these has two aspects. One is the extrinsic aspect and the other is the intrinsic aspect. The extrinsic aspect is the physical manifestation of nature, and the intrinsic aspect is phenomenological. And this UFC means ubiquitous field of consciousness, that is equated with the 0 point field, almost equivalent to the concept of quantum vacuum in quantum mechanics. And this UFC is the ubiquitous field which has the characterization of the physical field, as well as it represents the different shades of consciousness. So as a physical field, it contains normal modes of vibration. That means several sinusoidal waves were there, and which have some sort of phase relationship. And from the perspective of the the shades of consciousness, it has been said that it represents a palette of colors, and each of the colors represents different shades of consciousness. Now there are the oscillatory spectrum, color palette representing consciousness, and the vibration mode, normal modes of vibration, they represent the physical aspects. So this physical and conscious aspect give rise to some sort of modulated form of the 0 point field, and this 0 point field enters into a dynamic interaction with the neural correlates of consciousness. That means we can say the external stimulus or the external impulse which we get, that enters into a dynamic interaction with this unified field of consciousness, giving rise to several information states. And this chitta, whatever we call chitta, that chitta is a collection of all the information states thus available. To cut it short, I have just put some sort of, I am trying to present it in form of table. So you can see that the ACD paradigm, this stochastic electrodynamic dynamics paradigm, and the ancient Indian wisdom, they can have one-to-one correspondences. So you see in the ACD paradigm, we find consciousness is the inherent property of a ubiquitous background field ZPF that permeates the whole universe. Conscious and ancient Indian, from the perspective of ancient Indian wisdom, consciousness envelops every object of this universe of changefulness. From ACD paradigm, we get matter and consciousness coevally exist from the beginning. Then from ancient Indian wisdoms, you see, we are restricting ourselves to the phenomenal world. We are not going to the transcendental world, because that is beyond the limit of physical investigation, beyond the limit of the investigations of the scientists. So the third one is there is a ubiquitous radiation field called ZPF, characterized by infinite potential, infinite energy underlying the universe, and it is associated with consciousness. There is and from the ancient Indian wisdom perspective, there is a universal principle called Hiranyagarbha, which has both material and conscious aspects, and it is all pervasive, and it is the all pervasive rhythm of the universe. Rhythm Brihat, so it is the all pervasive rhythm of this universe. This Hiranyagarbha, as we know, it is equated to Buddhi in Sankhya, that is the Mahat. And the last point is this: the ZPF accounts for all the forces of nature and unconscious activities. And from ancient Indian wisdom perspective, all worldly objects and conscious activities are the modifications of Hiranyagarbha. We establish one conceptual equivalence. The ACD paradigm says consciousness, the ancient Indian wisdom says Chit. The ACD paradigm says ZPF, or the 0 point field. The ancient Indian wisdom speaks about Hiranyagarbha. This ACD paradigm talks about information states, collection of information states. We talk about Chitta. The ACD paradigm talks about brain. We talk about Mastishka. The physical object, we talk about the Vishaya. So it is a search for the universal framework. There is a unified field of consciousness which is characterized by the physical features in consonance with the laws of physics. The ubiquitous field of consciousness has also the attributes of consciousness. The field of consciousness enters into a dynamic interaction with the brain, which receives the stimuli from the external world. Chitta is an interface between the ubiquitous field of consciousness and the brain, which has a dynamic features too. Each information state represents Chitta Vritti, and the filtration of the external stimuli and associating with the appropriate hue or the color. The hue represents the conscious aspects, may be termed as concentration. So what is the way forward? The way forward where we have immense potentiality of the immense potentiality of this framework, which says that we can build up a mathematical model integrating cosmopsychism and Sankhya Patanjala system, which is not yet done. We can further explore the concept of Chitta. Once we establish that it is the collection of several information states, we can supply some more insights from the ancient Indian scripts to the system, to the modern system of presentation, which is the cosmopsychism. The concept of Hiranyagarbha needs further exploration through textual study. It will unravel novel aspects of this theory. A theory to deal with cosmological counterparts needs to be developed, because it totally deals with the psychological aspect. But unless and until we develop a good cosmology for this, then the strength of the theory will not be built up. And we have used all these theories from the perspective of cosmopsychism, from the 0 point field. But the most popular model, which is called the quantum field theory, which is very popular, everyone knows what is quantum field theory, and the entire world has come out of vacuum. We think about the vacuum. Vacuum is the ground state of this quantum field, and from vacuum the entire universe comes out, and it is expanded, and ultimately it will have a big crunch in the singularity only. This is the popular model. How can we present our present perspective in terms of quantum field theory? That is also a great challenge for us. So ultimately, this quantum field theory, or sorry, quantum cosmopsychism, is to some extent a fulfillment of the dream of Swami Vivekananda, who has envisaged long back that a cosmological model should be developed on the basis of the ancient Indian wisdom. He did not use the word ancient Indian wisdom. He used the concept that it was the Vedanta cosmology. He used Vedanta cosmology to represent the ancient Indian wisdom. So Vedanta, on the basis of Vedanta cosmology, there should be some attempt to formulate the cosmological models in consonance with the concepts of modern science. In this regard, in this direction, he has also worked to a great extent, and he had some sort of interaction with Professor Tesla, the great scientist, where Tesla said that this Vedantic theory of cosmology and psychology, the integration of both, must be the theories for the time to come, and therefore they thought of finding out a mathematical demonstration for the same, but this confluence of these two mastermind did not run its full course. So now I think with the evolution of this new theory, of new emergence of this new theory of cosmology, we will be able to, cosmology which is called the cosmopsychism, we shall be able to actualize the dream which has been envisaged by Swami Vivekananda in the days of yore. Thank you for a patient hearing. Hope I could complete in time.
Thank you so much, sir, for the innovative thoughts. Now we are moving to the next speaker, Dr. Vaishali Dakke. Let me introduce her. Dr. Vaishali Dakke is the head and assistant professor of Department of Sanskrit, Rohia College. She is having 27 plus years of rich experience in undergraduate teaching and 8 years of postgraduate teaching experience. She was awarded by PhD degree in Sanskrit for the thesis titled as Karman from Ritual to Philosophy with special reference to 5 Vedantic Acharyas. She was invited to participate in live phone-in program titled as Hello Sakhi by Doordarshan Mumbai. She co-authored 13 episodes of series named Bhasa Nataka Chakra for Akashvani Mumbai. She was invited as a speaker in the program titled as Roga Manacha, Shodha Manacha, Mantra Sadhana आणि Gayatri Upasana, ओळख वेद आणि उपनिषदांची and Brahma Sadhana, organized by Gandhari Mitra Mandal Thane in 2023-24, 2013-14 and 15. She was invited by Air Marathi channel to translate and recite Sanskrit poem selected for Rashtriya Sarva Bhasha Kavi Sammelana on the eve of Indian Republic Day on 25th of January 2019. She was also invited by Air Marathi channel in the live program Ranjak Safar to speak on the topic Vasanta Rutu with RJ Anjali and RJ Aishwarya on 9th of April 2019. She has performed in the 50 shows of the dance drama titled as Durga Jhali Gauri, produced by Chandra Shala Avishkar in year 1986-1987. Today, she is presenting a paper on relevance of yoga system with Shvetashvatara Upanishad. I request her to proceed further. Dr. Vaishali Dakke.
Namo Namaha. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you for the generous introduction. Respected chairperson, scholars, aspirants of yoga, I express my heartfelt gratitude towards the Department of Sanskrit, University of Mumbai, for inviting me to present my paper in this August gathering. I also congratulate Dr. Shakuntala Gowde, Dr. Madhavi Narsale, and team in the Department of Sanskrit for organizing Yoga Yajna, the seminar on yoga. The topic of my presentation is relevance of yoga with Shvetashvatara Upanishad. Upanishad literature is the fountainhead of Indian philosophy. Theories and concepts in theistic as well as atheistic schools of philosophy have their roots in the Upanishadic literature. The yoga system is not an exception to this fact. Many technical terms and concepts in yoga system are found in Upanishads. Among major Upanishad, references to yoga are found chiefly in Taittiriya, Kaushiki, Mandukya, Katha, Shvetashvatara, and Maitri Upanishad. Among these, references to yoga are replete and more vivid in Katha, Shvetashvatara, and Maitri Upanishad as compared to the remaining ones. As far as the yoga system is concerned, in the very first aphorism, Atha Yoganushasanam, Patanjali states that the work under consideration is a systematic presentation of the system of yoga, and it also suggests that it is not completely new but follow the old tradition that came down then. Mention is also made in Sarvadarshana Sangraha to Hiranyagarbha as the originator of the yoga system. Hiranyagarbha may be the name of a sage or it is a divine entity. Besides this, as mentioned above, references to yoga are seen in the Vedic literature and especially in the Upanishads. Thus, it conveys the fact that yoga was received by tradition, and the tradition is also of the Vedic literature and Upanishads. Though all the above mentioned Upanishads have references to the concept of yoga system in them, the focus of present paper is on the Shvetashvatara Upanishad. When the references to yoga in the said three Upanishads, namely Katha, Shvetashvatara, and Maitri, belonging to the same branch of Veda, that is Krishna Yajurveda, are compared, it is observed that the thoughts and concepts of yoga have gradually developed in the respective Upanishads. References to yoga are comparatively less in Kathopanishad as compared to the remaining two. However, Shvetashvatara has more impact on the later literature, especially Bhagavad Gita, where not only the concepts but terminology and the quarters of the verses are also borrowed. They are found in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, namely Dhyana Yoga, which specially deals with Raja Yoga as the means of controlling mind. References to Sankhya Darshana, a compare of yoga system, which in many aspects go hand in hand with yoga system, are seen to be more in the said Upanishad, that is Shvetashvatara, as compared to the other two. The later commentators have also referred to Shvetashvatara Upanishad while discussing the yoga system. In the second chapter, in the first part of second chapter of Brahma Sutra, the yoga system has been refuted in the Sutra Etena Yogaha Pratyuktaha. While commenting on the Sutra, Shankaracharya has not only quoted Shvetashvatara Upanishad but also referred to it by saying that the yoga system with its eightfold discipline is not opposed to Vedas. Asana Purassaram Bahu Prapancham Yoga Vidhanam Shvetashvatari Drishyate. The later Upanishads like Kaivalya Upanishad, Subala Upanishad, and even the later works on yoga have borrowed terms and partial verses from the said Upanishad, as in Kaivalya Upanishad, Vivikta Deshe Cha Sukhasanastaha, etc. Thus, the Shvetashvatara Upanishad is the locus classicus of the yoga and the Sankhya philosophy. Therefore, an attempt has been made to examine the gradual development of the concepts in the Yoga Darshan through these references, and thus to explore the relevance of Yoga Darshana to Shvetashvatara Upanishad. The said Upanishad belongs to Krishna Yajurveda. It comprises 6 chapters. The first chapter refers to various contemporary views about the highest principle, the cause of the world. It also discusses the individual soul, pranavopasana, and importance of satya, tapas, and dhyana. The second chapter has the classical discussion of yoga. Yoga is introduced here as the means of dhyana, which further leads to realization. The third one discusses Shaivite philosophy. The fourth and the fifth chapter has many references to yoga theories, especially the creation by Prakriti, manifestation of single highest principle into many, while the sixth one speaks about the theistic view about the highest principle which creates and sustains the world, and also introduces the idea of bhakti for Guru and God. The opinions about the date of Upanishad are diverse. Ranade opines that the earliest and the latest date of the composition of 13 major Upanishads is 1200 BCE and 600 BCE. He further states that Shvetashvatara Upanishad was composed at a time when Sankhya and the Vedanta were yet intermixed. To add to this, Mainkar comments that it was written at the time when Sankhya and Yoga had not separated and Maya was identified with Prakriti. Considering both the views, it can be said that Shvetashvatara Upanishad was composed when all the three, namely Sankhya, Yoga, and Vedanta, were not separated and crystallized as the individual systems. Therefore, the terms and concepts of all above mentioned darshanas are found in this Upanishads. The references of concepts of yoga found in the said text are discussed and compared with the text dealing with yoga as follows. The second chapter in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, which refers mainly to yoga concepts, begin with the prayer regarding concentrating and withdrawing the mind and intellect. It is stated that one should generate steadfastness in Brahman. The mantra hereafter shows the process of keeping the mind and intellect steadfast in the highest principle, Brahma. Yunjate mana uta yunjate dhiyaha, etc. The very first among the mantras which describe the process and reflects on the step in Patanjala Yoga Sutra, that is asana. It says that by keeping steady the body with the three parts, namely neck, chest, and head erect, withdrawing the organs into the heart with the help of mind, one can cross the terrible current with the vessel in the form of Brahman. The mantra speaks about the posture of the body at the time of practicing yoga. It also mentions the ideal state of mind where all the sense organs are merged in the mind. Trirunnatam sthapya samam shariram indriyani rudindriyani manasa sannivesha. The steadiness of limbs mentioned in the mantra is also seen to be mentioned in Yoga Sutra of Patanjali Sthira Sukham Asanam. In the Upanishad, the word asana is not found, but the posture definitely speaks about the third limb of Ashtanga Yoga, that is asana. In the later text on yoga philosophy, especially those of Hatha Yoga, an elaborate scheme of asana is seen to be developed. However, the posture mentioned here must be certainly for the meditational procedure, as it is seen even in Patanjala Sutra, because the merging of senses into mind is immediately mentioned in the same mantra. In Patanjala Yoga Sutra, it is also stated about Ananta Samapatti, that is the merger of mind in something that is infinite. Controlling senses by means of mind is the process also equivalent to Pratyahara. The next mantra speaks about pranayama. It says that one who is restrained in his action should control the vital forces in the body and exhale through nose when the vital force has become weak. Through this practice, a person should hold his mind under control, like controlling unruly horses yoked to the chariot. In this mantra, the idea of controlling senses through the drishtanta of controlling unruly horses yoked to the chariot is similar to the one mentioned in Ratharupaka in Kathopanishad. Dushtashvayuktam iva vahamenam vidvan manodharayet apramattaha. The same idea is seen in the Sutra of Patanjali on Pranayama 2.49, Pranayama is defined by Patanjali as the break in the regular movement of inhalation and exhalation. Tasmin sasati shvasa prashvasayoho gati vichedaha. In the Upanishad too, the regulation of breath certainly suggests rhythmical breathing. The last quarter of the mantra advises that a wise should hold his mind under control by this practice. Same is the purpose of pranayama that is mentioned in the Sutra of Patanjali, Dharana Sucha Yogyata Manasaha. In the sutra, it is said that the practice of pranayama makes the mind fit for entering into dharana, which is nothing but confining chitta in a limited sphere. This state is precursor to the state of dhyana. The verb employed in the mantra, which explains the practice of pranayama, is also dhru, from which the word dharana has been derived. The verse in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika also clearly points out the relation between the process of mind and breath and how both these can be controlled with the help of each other. Chale vate chalam chittam, nishchale nishchalam bhave. The next mantra beautifully describes an ideal place for practicing meditation. It is said that one should practice meditation in the shelter such as a cave which is free from wind. It should be even free from pebbles, fire, free from sound and water. One should not resort to the public shelter. It should be pleasing to the mind and not painful to the eyes. Such place is not mentioned in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, but it is mentioned in the same manner with few differences in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita dealing with Dhyana Yoga. The reference to such an ideal environment is also found in minor Upanishads like Kaivalya Upanishad and later yoga texts like Hatha Yoga Pradipika. In the next mantra, there is a reference to the different forms and lights that are experienced by the sage on the threshold of the spiritual experience. It is said that the person on his spiritual journey experiences forms such as mist and smoke, the sun, the fire, the wind, the fireflies, the lightning, the crystal, the moon. Such experiences are forerunners when Brahman is being revealed to the yogin. In the next two mantras, the positive effects of the above mentioned spiritual practice are stated. It is said that one who practices yoga becomes ageless and immortal. His body becomes light, supple, and completely healthy. One attains clearness of complexion, sweetness in voice, agreeable odor to the body, and scantiness of urine and phases. Lagutvam arogyam alolupatvam varnaprasadam swarasaushtavam cha gandhashubho mutra purishamalpam yoga pravrithamam vadanti. Many such effects of yoga practice are mentioned in the 3rd chapter of Vibhuti Pada of Patanjala Sutra, as the appearance of anima and other siddhis, acquisition of excellences in physic and non-affliction by the natural tendencies, perfection in bodily attributes like graceful form, beauty, strength, and sturdiness, etc. However, these effects mentioned in Patanjali Yoga Sutra are acquired by the yogi at the advanced stage of sadhana through Sayyama, which means mastery over the process of reaching the state of samadhi in one instant, wherein dharana and dhyana, the preceding states, are also merged. While the positive results mentioned in the Upanishads are the results automatically attained as an indications that yogi is treading on the proper path of spiritual journey. The ultimate result of sadhana is mentioned to be transcending dualities and the freedom from sorrow and the realization of the self, which is nothing but becoming one with the highest, which appears to be indicated in tada drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam. However, in Yoga Darshana, the ultimate state of realization is of Kaivalya, that is isolation from Prakriti, while Upanishad speaks about the identity of the individual and the highest soul, which is in agreement with Vedanta thought. From the above discussion, it is observed that Though the terms employed in the Eightfold Yoga, namely asana, pranayama, pratyahara, are not explicitly found in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, the process described certainly resembles them. The process of dharana and dhyana are not separately mentioned in the said Upanishads. However, term dhyana is found in the very first chapter of the Upanishad. Not only the term, but the process of dhyana is beautifully mentioned too. In the third and the 11th mantra in the first chapter, it is mentioned that dhyana yoga, the practice of yoga of meditation, leads to realization of the highest, while 11th mantra states that meditation results in the fall of body, that is dehapata. The word dhyana yoga has been interpreted differently. One interpretation is dhyana and yoga as two different paths. And the other interpretation is dhyana itself is a yoga which serves as a means to realization. Process of dhyana is described beautifully by using the analogy of kindling fire with aranis. The mantra states that by making one's body the lower arani and om and upper arani, one should with practice of meditation, which is analogous to rubbing, abhyasa, realize the deity hidden as it were. The deity is nothing but the self that resides in us. This dhyana is an instrument for realization which is performed with the help of body and by the act of repeated practice of uttering Om. Swadeham aranim krutva pranavam chottara aranim dhyana nirmathyana devam pashet nigudhavat. The first two limbs, namely yama and niyama, are neither mentioned nor their process is mentioned. However, references to Satya, Tapa, Brahmacharya, Shaucha, Swadhyaya are found scattered in all the major Upanishads. Satya and Tapas are also mentioned in Shvetashvatara Upanishad. They are being accepted as ethical values to be imbibed by everyone and therefore probably not mentioned. Pranavopasana is also recommended as the means to know the self. It is said that as fire in the wood is not seen but becomes perceptible after rubbing and with the help of fuel, so also the self, though not seen, is realized with the help of Pranavopasana. Bandher yatha yoni gatasya murtir na drishyate naiva cha linganashaha sabhuya eva indhana yogya nikruhyas tadobhayam vai pranavena dehe. Here home is the instrument of realization, while in the Sutra of Patanjali, it is looked upon as a manifestation of divinity, tasya vachakaha pranavaha, and hence it is recommended that one should resort to continuous and repeated recitation of it with contemplation on its meaning. Practice of Pranavopasana, according to Patanjala Sutra, removed impediments in the progress of yoga. References to terms and concepts in Sankhya philosophy are also seen in Shvetashvatara Upanishad. It refers to the principle of Prakriti. Prakriti is mentioned in the first chapter as Pradhana. It is said that Pradhana is Kshara, mutable, and immutable, immortal God rules it. It should be noted that the word Pradhana is also used in the sense of Prakriti by Sankhya and also by Shankaracharya in Brahma Sutra Bhashya. The same term is also used in the 6th chapter where it is said that the Lord is the protector of the unmanifested. He is the Lord of Gunas, that is Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. He is the cause of liberation, existence and all the bondages. Sa Vishwakrut Vishwavid Atma Yonir Kalakaro Guni Sarva Vidyaha Pradhana Kshetrajna Patir Guneshaha Samsara Moksha Sthiti Bandha Hetu. Prakriti is also referred to as Aja. The mantra mentions the unborn Prakriti having red, black, and white color. The reference is interpreted as Prakriti with 3 gunas, that is Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, or the nature consisting of 3 elements, namely fire, water, and food. The references seem to mean the Prakriti with 3 gunas as 3/4 of the verse speak about creation of the world, which is enjoyed by the individual self. Krishna Shuklam, etc. One finds in Prakriti, Mayam to Prakrutim Vidyat, Mayinam to the power. Prakriti is considered as the occult power of God. With this power, God is described to have created the world. It is also said that God, the source of universe, brings about the nature of the things, who transforms all the things that are mutable, who directs the three qualities and rules the universe alone. It can be noted here that the word used for transformation is parinama. Sankhya's belief in parinama vada as far as the theory of creation is concerned. The Upanishad also refers to Kapila, who is said to have been observed by the god while being born. There is a difference of opinion and much controversy regarding the exact meaning of word Kapila, as it is also the name of propounder of Sankhya philosophy. However, the other two passages in the same Upanishad, Hiranyagarbham Pashyata Jayamanam, clearly suggest that word Kapila in the passage means Hiranyagarbha, who was created by the god and then was endowed with the powers. Terms Sankhya and Yoga are used as compound in the 13th verse of the last chapter. It is said that one becomes free from the bondage by knowing the deity through Sankhya and Yoga. This compounded term is also found in the Gita, Sankhya Yoga Pruthak Bala, etc. In the verse 2, the terms are interpreted as Jnana and Karma, as the most scholars believe that the three darshanas, which are clearly evident in the Shvetashvetara, had yet not acquired the individual status. From the above discussion, it can be said that the Shvetashvatara Upanishad enjoys the important place in the journey of Yoga, Sankhya, and Vedanta Darshana as well. This Upanishad is of the later period as compared to the other major Upanishads. Therefore, probably one sees the ideas and the philosophical concepts being clear and also expressed by using the technical words like Pradhana, Prakruti, Maya, which later culminated into important concepts in the various schools of philosophy. Here in this Upanishad, that one comes across for the first time clear and systematic practical aspect of yoga along with philosophical ideas. The Upanishad commences with the inquiry into the nature of Brahman, and it also concludes resounding the echo of Eko Vashi, Sarva Bhuteshu Gudha, Sarva Vyapi, Sarva Bhutantaratma, etc. One and only one principle without second. Thus, as per Upakrama and Upasamhara is concerned, it can be said that the Upanishad is focused on Vedanta, but the fact also cannot be denied that there is clear, explicit mention to the yoga thought, and to some extent also to Sankhya thought. The thought of yoga prescribing practical philosophy appears to be gaining more acceptability with the other philosophies through the said Upanishad. Almost 1/3 of the mantras in the Upanishad refer to yoga in some or the other way. In a way, the Upanishad can be said to have paved the path for formulation of the yoga system, especially Ashtanga Yoga. Thus, the term Atha and Anu in the first sutra of Patanjala Yoga Sutra speak about the relevance of this Upanishad also. Thank you very much for patient listening.
Thank you so much, Dapke Madam, for the innovative and studious thoughts. Now, we are moving to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Dr. Ashish Phadke. Let me introduce him. Dr. Ashish Phadke has done BA, MS and MD in Ayurveda, and he holds PhD in Yoga philosophy. Currently, he is practicing as an Ayurveda, Yoga and eye consultant, Panchakarma specialist. He has presented number of research papers on Ayurveda, Panchakarma, Yoga, psychotherapy at different national and international conferences in India, Italy, Germany, Netherlands, South Korea, and Nigeria. He was invited to give lectures, seminars on Ayurveda and Reiki at Italy, Germany, Netherlands, South Korea, and Nigeria. He is involved in pharma industry as Ayurveda herbal pharma consultant for more than 25 years. He worked with pharma industry, MNCs within domestic market and for overseas pharma groups for conceptualizing to the development of Ayurveda, herbal products involved in creating protocols and conducting clinical trials of Ayurvedic products, also advising on regulatory aspect for the same. Also conducted training programs for SOS and spoke at various CMEs, supported the medico-marketing activity of Ayurveda, herbal products in domestic and international platform. He was invited for a number of talk shows on health like Hello Doctor on Care TV World and Sama Sanjeevani on Sama Marathi, Hello Doctor on TV9 Marathi channels on Ayurveda. Today, he is presenting a paper on yoga and Ayurveda. I request Dr. Phadke to start his talk. Thank you.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Namo Namo.
Namo Namah.
Let me share my screen first. Is it seen? Hello? Hello?
Your C.
Yes, yes.
Visible.
Yeah, okay. No, it is not going to slideshow anyway. Can you read this? I don't know.
Yes, we can read.
Now it's okay. So to begin with, let me thanks Department of Sanskrit, Dr. Shakuntala Madam and team for inviting me and giving me opportunity to be in front of you. Let me take permission from Chairman Sir. Shall I proceed?
Sure, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Let me thanks my previous two speakers for wonderful, exposition. And now we are going to have a little different topic, more, like slightly out of box, because we are going to speak on yoga and Ayurveda and how these two disciplines can be taken together and of great importance to all of us today at various levels. So before we actually proceed, we have to remember and bow down in front of Patanjali Muni and Dhanvantari, Shri Dhanvantari. So if we remember the prayer of Patanjali, we all are aware that Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacha Malam Sharirasya Cha Vaidyakena Yopa Karottam Pravaram Muninam Patanjalim Pranjali Ranatosmi Abahu Purushakaram Shankachakran Siddharinam Sahasram Shirasam Shvetam Pranamami Patanjalim. So here in this particular shlok, in this particular prayer only, we can see, let us not get into discussion and debate whether the Patanjali Muni and Charak Samhitakar, Charak Muni and Bhashyakar on Ashtadhyayi, whether they were same or not. But from this particular aphorism, we can see, from this particular prayer, we can see that he had contribution towards cleansing of chitta through the discipline of yoga. Then Padena Vacha is with reference to Vyakarana, and then Malam Sharirasya Cha Vaidyakena. So if we want to cleanse your bodily doshas, Mala, then for that he has worked in the field of Ayurveda, and that's what we remember every day in, day out. But then when it comes down to actual practice of yoga, whether in a way of practicing for oneself or for teaching yoga to our students as a yoga teacher, or while treating patients with the help of yoga therapy, we usually see very few institutes, I remember, that they hardly think of using Ayurveda and yoga as a couplet. I say that with a very specific, observation, because whenever we come across various research papers which have been, undertaken at various levels, at various institutes across national and international level, we usually see that there is a correlation of yoga and modern medicine, right? We have certain particular complaints or certain particular indications, and then some yogic application towards it. And then we try to analyze whether it is getting reduced or getting benefited, all that stuff. Whether we are reading, yogic texts, then usually, unfortunately, many a times, people, they are reading translations. Why I'm saying that? Because I am teaching at yoga institutes also, as well as I taught in Ayurvedic colleges for long years, like for 12, 13 years I taught. And unfortunately, nowadays, what is happening is people, they are not really interested to read the original in Sanskrit. So I was really happy to have this particular seminar with the theme Yoga Theory and Practices, conducted by Sanskrit department, because I believe that if you don't really understand how to read Sanskrit, how to decode these sutras in its original way, then what usually we tend to see that there is a distortion, and that distortion comes from the biases which has been written by the commentators, right? So I'm not saying that the commentaries and commentators are bad. They are very important because they give us new insights, no doubt. But while understanding that, if we are not addressing to the root, then I think the problem begins. Now, the next photograph here is a photograph of Sri Dhanvantari Bhagwan, who is considered to be not just god of Ayurveda, but the god of medicine, and is a avatar of Vishnu. Okay. Now, before going ahead, I have to bow in front of my guru, late Padma Shri Yogacharya Sadashiv Nimbalkar sir, and Gurunam Guru, that is Swami Kovalanandaji. So whatever I'll be saying here is all because of my sir, Nimbalkar sir, and the entire team of Yoga Vidya Niketan, where I have taken my training in basic training in yoga. I also, mention about Kaivalya Dham, Mumbai, where I started my understanding in yoga. And then later on in Mumbai University, philosophy department, yoga related programs. I did my certificate diploma and advanced diploma in yoga in that particular area. And then later on MA and PhD under the same aegis of philosophy department of Mumbai University. So all my teachers, gurus from all these areas, I bow in front of them and I owe to them. Now coming to the topic, why we have chosen yoga and Ayurveda. So basically we will be having, some introduction to what Ayurveda is, some introduction. I'll not speak on what yoga is because that is what is going on for last, so many lectures. So I don't want to add to that, but how this Ayurveda can be understood for better understanding of yoga, that is our basic state. So Ayusha Veda, Ayurveda, that is the Vyutpatti of Ayurveda. So it's speaking about life. It's a science of life. It's a knowledge of life. So that is what Ayurveda is. And it has been considered as Upangam Atharva Vedasya. Now, Upangam Atharva Vedasya has been mentioned by Sushruta Acharya, whereas in other texts, it has been mentioned that it is Upangam Rugvedasya. So in Rugveda and Atharva Veda, you see the roots of Ayurveda. Now, what is the necessity of having this kind of Upaveda? So, Dharmartha Kama Mokshanam Arogyam Moolam Uttamam. So, to keep to get this Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha, your Arogya, your health has to be in a maximum better condition. Yesterday, you remember Dr. Ganesh Rao sir, who happens to be my teacher at Mumbai University, even he mentioned in his speech that unless you don't have proper health, you cannot proceed further in yoga, in the path of yoga. So for having Arogyam Uttamam, Ayurveda is one of the sciences. Then there is another definition in Ayurveda that Sukha Saudnyakam Arogyam Vikaro Dukkham Evacha. So Sukha Saudnyakam Arogyam and Vikaro Dukkham Evacha. Now Dukkha, now Trivida Dukkha we heard yesterday also, today passing by references. So even Ayurveda speaks about dukkha, and there is another definition of disease, tad dukkha sanyoga vyadhayaha. So whenever there is a dukkha sanyoga in the srotasa, in the nadis, then there is a possibility of getting disease. That is what is another concept in Ayurveda. Then vikaro dosha vaishamyam, dosha samya arogata. That is another concept, that another definition of roga and arogata. So if there is a dosha vaishamya, what is dosha, what is samya and vaishamya, we'll see a little later. Then there are various synonyms, it has been mentioned in Ayurveda with reference to roga, with reference to vyadhi. So roga, papma, jaro, vyadhi, vikaro, dukkhamamaya, yashma atanka, gadabadha, shabda, paryayi, vachina. So if I don't get into the etymological derivation of everyone, all these terms, but what I'm trying to mention over here is, if we have the basics of Ayurveda per se, certain concepts of Ayurveda, then while reading not only yoga darshan but other darshan also, we get to get to know certain specific meaning which otherwise we tend to surpass. Now, what was the basic aim and object of Ayurveda? So it has been mentioned in the script that swasthasya swasthya rakshanam aturasya vikara prashmanam, or swasthasya, those who are healthy, to keep them healthy, and those who are diseased, to convert them into healthy state. That is what is the basic aim and object of Ayurveda, as mentioned by Samhitakar. So here if we see swasthasya swasthya, so swastha, if we see the term swastha, it is made up of two terms, swa and stha, where swa means self and stha means sthiti. Okay. And if we go back to Yoga Sutra, and you remember the sutra, tada swarupe avasthanam. So swarupe and swastha. So swa is common in either. So here also we have to understand that you have to realize yourself, but here it is not only on one particular plane of spirituality, but it is also speaking on various modes, because this is the applied science which needs to be utilized for the benefit of the mankind, for actually treating them, because those days Ayurveda was the only system. It was not alternative. Unfortunately, nowadays people, they say whether it is alternative or complementary or whatever. So I always used to tell them that, look, Ayurveda to our India is native, not alternative. Okay, what is coming from outside is alternative, but here it is native to India. But anyway, so this particular object and aim is also reminding us towards the concept of preventive and social medicine, which has been seen in modern medicine for last few decades. So then coming down to what exactly the meaning of Ayurveda is, what is the definition part, what is the Vyakhya of Ayurveda. And the Vyakhya says, hita hitam sukham dukkham ayuhu tasya hita hitam manam cha taccha yatra uktam ayurveda sauchyate. So anything which is hitakara and ahitakara, useful and non-useful, sukhakara and dukkhakara, pleasurable and non-pleasurable, with reference to whom? Ayus tasya hitaitam, with reference to the reference frame of life, and how it has been dealt with, how it has been discussed with. So manam chatroktam, with specific measures it has been mentioned, not just arbitrarily. Many times our colleagues, they say that, oh, Ayurveda is not standardized, but I take them towards the notice of looking at the definition, and the definition itself speaks about manam. And the term maniki karana in Sanskrit is now equivalent to standardization. So Ayurveda is a system where it gives a standardized protocol, standardized advices towards what is to be done, what is to be eaten, what is to be avoided, and how it is to be avoided, in what kind of ritu, what kind of season, in what quantum, matrashi syat. It has to be taken in a proper quantity only. If you take it too much, then also it is harmful. If you don't take at all, then also it is harmful. And I think something similar has also been now discussed in modern medicine. You have, toxicity level of vitamin B12 or toxicity level of vitamin D3. And if there is a scarcity of those particular ingredients, then there is a deficiency. So it has to be given in a proper dose. So that concept was also mentioned in this. Now, what is hita and ahita and sukha and dukkha together, if we look at in together, then we can understand example of certain food stuff which is hitakara and sukhakara. For example, you like jaggery and you eat sugar, so it is sukhakara, because eating madhura rasa, eating sweets, it is giving pleasure, right? And it is also hitakara provided you take it in a right quantity. But sometimes it is hitakara and dukkhakara, right? For example, eating your karavellaka or bitter gourd, karela, right? So karela or neem, it is not very pleasurable to eat with. But in the first day of Chaitra, we are advised to take bitters. Okay. And though it is dukkhakara, but it is to be taken. For example, methi, methika, okay, or karela. These are not pleasurable in taste, but they are good for your health. So it is to be taken in a right mode. Sometimes it is ahitakara and sukhakara. For example, you go to any corner and there is a stall of vada pav. Now in Mumbai we have a lot of vada pav stalls, and certain particular place that vada pav is very good. And then people, they say that, oh, let us have vada pav first round, second round, third round, and it is sukhakara. But the next day in the morning when you pass motion, then it is dukkhakara. So there is a combination of hita, ahita, sukha, dukkha, and the entire recipe which has been given with reference to your life, that is termed as Ayurveda with specific measure. Now, what is the definition of swastha we saw a few minutes back? So, samadosha, samagnishcha, samadhatu, malakriya, prasanna, atma, indriya, mana, swastha iti abhidiyate. Now, there are three doshas, vata, pitta, kapha. Then Agni, there are 13 types of Agni. I don't get into those because there's a short of time. Then Sapta Dhatu, there are 7 vital tissue, Rasa, Rakta, Mahusameda, Asti, Majja, Shukra. And then finally the elixir of it, that is Ojasa. Okay. And then 3 Mala, that is Mala, Mutra, and Sweda, that is sweat. Okay. Now, if these things are not in homeostasis, then we are considered to have disease. Yesterday, Dr. Ulka, madam, she spoke about concept of health and concept of disease. So this is what is the physical level of disease as mentioned by Sushruta Samhita. And the second line speaks about prasanna atma indriya manha swastha iti abhidiyate. Now, prasanna atma, blissful soul, indriya, your sense organs, and mana, if they all are in a blissful state and in equilibria, then only a person is considered to be swastha. Now, for having this tridosha in balance, usually you see that Ayurveda is the substratum to work with. But for prasanna atma, you have got Ayurveda and yoga together to work with. So that is what I wanted to bring your attention to. Now, this is what is the similar to the definition of that of World Health Organization, WHO. It also says that health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So, same thing has been mentioned by Ayurveda way back. Now, coming down to different concepts, so we have got concept of Panchamahabhut Siddhanta, then Tridosh Siddhanta, Saptaratu, Trimala, Agni, Ojasa. Then Samanya Vishesh Siddhanta, Shadras Siddhanta. Then there is something known as Prakriti and Vikruti. Now, we all are there, like for example, out of 100 subjects, 100 people, you will just look at their characteristics, some physical, physiological, mental, and behavioral characters. And then you can find out that these particular people, they exhibit something similar properties, and we group them as Vata Prakriti, Pitta Prakriti, Kapha Prakriti, or there are combinations of Prakriti. And based on those combinations of Prakriti, they exhibit certain characters. Now, how that is going to be important, we'll see a little later. Now, Swastha already has spoke about, but if we know some more details of this, then it will be useful while understanding certain concepts in yoga or particularly Sankhya. For example, Panchamahabhut we speak, and from these Panchamahabhut only you get Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. I'm not getting into details of it. And then in Ayurveda, we speak about Shadras Siddhanta. In modern physiology, in modern medicine, they speak about only 4 tests, TAST, not TAST. So we speak about Shadrasa, Madhura, Amla, Lavana, Katu, Tikta, Kashaya. So these are sweet, sour, salty, pungent, bitters, and astringents. And we have been spoken in our text that our usual ahar has to be always shadrasatmak. It has to be with all these 6 days and in this particular sequence. So if we take that, then your health is going to get restored. But unfortunately, we start with what we start with? We start with hot and sour soup, and we put ourselves in a soup of illness, and we end with dessert, and that is sweets, and we put our health in a desert of diseases. So we have to understand this kind of concept from Ayurveda. Even to we have to make it available to students of yoga and practitioners of yoga and those who are going to do the therapy part. How it will be more specific, I'll tell. Now, when we speak about or when we learn about diet in yogic sciences, it has been mentioned in Hatha Pradipika that Brahmachari, Mitahari, Tyagi, Yoga Parayan. So what is Mitahar? Susnigdam Madhurahara Chatursamsha Vivarjita Bhujyate Shiv Samprityai Mitahara Sauchyate. And here we don't pay attention that Susnigdam Madhurahara. Now it has been mentioned for the yoga sadhak who is going to start his yoga practice in the beginning. Why it is to be mentioned, and usually in the classrooms it has been mentioned this particular shlok, and they give the translation that snigdha hona chahiye, aahar ko madhur hona chahiye, blah blah blah. But why? The question comes why? If you don't understand why it has been mentioned by Shastrakar, then it is half the way. And if we want to understand that, then you require to have the Ayurvedic backup. What Ayurveda says that if you have susnigdha and madhura, then snigdha and madhura are those ahara which is going to pacify, increase vitiated vata. Yesterday, you remember in the beginning inaugural session, Dr. Mickey sir mentioned Vaat badh gaya to vaat lag gayi and all that, right? So it's actually fact, though it was sounding a little different. But if the Vaat prakop happens, and that usually happens in the initial phase of yoga practice. So to keep your Vata in balance, to keep your body in that particular position to do difficult practices, it is required to give some snigdhahar. And which kind of snigdhahar? It has to be usually go-gruta or go-dugdha. That has been specified. They have never said you take Mahishi Dugdha. Mahishi Dugdha is buffalo's milk. Why Mahishi Dugdha is not to be given? Because Mahishi Dugdha is Nidrajanam Agriyam. So it actually induces sleep to the greatest extent. So if you want to be alert, if you want to do dhyana, if you want to do other yogic practices, your medha, your buddhi has to be alert. And for that alertness, you require to take Godugdha. Madhura Ara, because Madhura Rasa also pacifies Vata. And Madhura Rasa also gives pushti to Rasa, Rakta, Mausa, Medha, Asti, Majja, Sugar, all dhatus. So it is therefore it is mentioned. Now Chaturthansha Vivarjita is again concept mentioned in Ayurveda, Ashtanga Hriday and Ashtanga Sangrah. So they mention that your stomach, you imagine that you have got 4 quadrants. So you put 2 quadrants with solid, 1 quadrant with liquid, and 1 quadrant, you just keep it empty for Vayu Sancharanartha. Here they have mentioned Bhujyante Shiva Samprityo, Mitahara Sauchyate. Now in this don't list, they have again mentioned Katu Amla, Tikshna, Lavana Ushna, Harita Shaka, Savira Tela, Tila, Sarshapa, Madhyamatsyan, Ajadi Mansa, Dadi, Takra, Kulatta Kola, Pinyaka, Hingu, Lashanadyam, Apathyam, Ahu. Now we remember this, we read the translation, we mug it up, we write down in your exams, may it be diploma, may it be MA Yoga Shastra, may it be whatever. But if we ask those students that, have you really understood why it is not to be taken? No, sir, because it has been mentioned in XYZ text, translations, or it has been mentioned in Hatha Pradipika or Shiva Samhita, whatever. The meaning for this is because this Katu Amla are particularly Katu Rasa and Tikshna Rasa, they are going to have increase in Vata, and Amla and Ushna, Tikshna, they are having going to increase in Pitta. And if you see the Hatha Pradipika text, particularly before pranayam, it has been mentioned that you have got these malas in your Hatha Yogic perspective. They are saying these malas, which are kapha and pitta, which are blocking the nadi, the srotasa. And if you want to have proper, movement of vata or vayu, then you require to cleanse it. And for cleansing, then they are mentioning about Shat Kriya, right? So here, all these I can go one by one on each and every word, but again, we are lacking of time. Then there is something known as Bhojanam Ahitam Vidyat Punah Ushnikritam Ruksham Ati Lavanam Amlayuktam Shakotakam Varjayat. Now, Bhojanam Ahitam Vidyat, you should not eat this kind of stuff when it is Punah Ushnikritam Ruksham. So those days also people, they used to make the food and then heat it up later on. And nowadays we do every day, now and then. You have got microwave, and what do? We do the same thing. And that, why it is not to be done? Because it becomes ruksham by doing so. And it deflates the properties of this particular food. And then it again increases your vata, and then it is bad for yoga sadhaka. So likewise, there are so many things. And what things to be taken? Godhuma Shali Yavashashtika Bhojananam Shirajya Kanda Sita Madhuni Shunti Patolaka Faladi Panchashaka Mudgadi Divya Mudakam Cha Yamindra Patyam. So in those which are Godhuma means your gehu, wheat, because that is also Madhura in rasa, and that is balya, that is giving bala to your mausa, right? So that's how it is to be taken. Then Shali, then Javas. Then Shashtika is a sati sari, that is a type of rice which is eaten for 60 days. So which is easy to get digested. That's how they have mentioned about Shali. And then Shirajya Kanda, something made up of your, Godugda and Godugda Vikriti, like your milk and ghee and Navanita and all that. They're not mentioning about sweets. They're not mentioning about barfi and peda and all that stuff. Okay. But they are also saying Sita. Now, Sita is Sharkara, but the Sharkara, which is original one, that what we call Khadi Shakkar in Maharashtra and all, in South, they call Kalakanda in particular states, right? So that kind of Sita, that kind of Sharkara has to be taken, because that is again Madhura Rasatmak and Balya, and that is making Shamanam of Prakopita Vata. They have never mentioned about Guda. Guda Vaikrutam, usually they are usually saying no, because Guda is again a problematic if it is used in a larger quantum because it can increase Pitta, though people they are using Guda. Okay. Now I am going ahead. If we see Adav Sthanam Tatha Kalam Mitaram Tataparam Nadi Shuddhi Tatam, already we see that. And if we don't follow this mitahar, then it can create nana rogo bhavetasya kinchit yogana siddhyati. So if we don't follow this, if we don't understand the basic understanding through Ayurvedic lens, then we may not able to appreciate. It remains only for the exams and it doesn't come into practice. Okay. Then lagu pakam priyam snigdam tatha dhatu praposhanam mana abilishitam yogyam yogi bhojanam acharit. So dhatu praposhanam, lagu pakam means the food which is light to get digested. Priyam, it should be rudyam, it shouldn't be taken with aversion. And snigdam, so everywhere it is coming. Now if we see most of the yoga school, they say all 5 whites are to be avoided. No ghee, no butter, no your sugar, nothing is to be taken. But sorry, it is not like that. If it is taken in excess, then it is bad. And one of the definition of yoga says yoga samatvam uchyate. So nothing is absolute bad, nothing is absolute good. But if you have to take it in a proper, balanced way, then it is good. Again, this I'll skip. Now, coming down to understanding of what happens if pranayama is not done correctly, they have mentioned hikka shwasascha kasascha shirakarna akshivedana bhavanti vividharoga pavanasya prakopata. Now pavanasya prakopata, that vata prakop, has got 120 types of diseases, of which Shastrakar has mentioned about hikka, shwasa, kasa, shira vedana, karna vedana and akshivedana. And these are the contemporary terms for that: hiccups, bronchial asthma, bronchitis, headache, and so and so. Okay, so we have to understand why it is to be understood. Now coming down, what are the similarities and dissimilarities? Triguna and Tridosha already we discussed about that. Triguna is also been accepted and discussed in a great way in Ayurveda as well. Then we have got Ashtanga Yoga, Yama Niyama and all. And here we have got Kaya Bala Gravardhanga Shalya Dhanshra Jaravasha. There are Ashta Anga of Ayurveda also. Then in that, one of them is Graha Chikitsa, and that Graha Chikitsa is also considered as psychiatry, and then parapsychology and medical astrology. So in psychiatry, one of the treatment is Satvavajaya Chikitsa, and in Satvavajaya Chikitsa, one of the main method or tool to be implied with or to applied with in that particular zone is yoga. Then Nadi and Srotasa. They are both are microchannels. Here we have got a discussion about 72,000. In Ayurveda, we have got another great discussion about Srotasa. Then Shuddhi Kriya and Panchakarma, they are therapeutic modalities to harmonize the system. Now, Shuddhi Kriya are 6, and usually in most of the yoga classes and even in the text also, we have seen that everyone and anyone can do Shuddhi Kriya, right? But whereas in Panchakarma, we have got a specification that who can undergo Vamana, who can undergo Virechana, who can undergo Rakta Mokshana or Nasya or, Basti. So not that every person can undergo all these kind of stuff, because there are K Avamya, K Vamya. So who should be indicated, who should be contraindicated? I think there is a need, and I have presented my paper way back in 2006 in one of the International Yoga Conference. And there I propose that we have to have that kind of protocol in Shatkriya also. And we can borrow it from Ayurveda and we can develop together and we can take it further. There is another way in this I would like to mention with that we do Neti, right? Jalaneti or Sutra Neti, everybody is aware of. And I have started using Neti and Nasya together. And I have found that if you use Jalaneti for particular days, and then you make that person more receptive for absorption of those particular drugs, then I have found that the amount of drug, that Tailam which we otherwise instill, require very less. And that is one of the project which I am I'm conducting at my own clinic. Something similar can be done with your Kapalabhati. Something similar can be done with Basti, and so and so. Then Yama and Niyama and Sadvritta of Ayurveda. If we see Sadvritta in great details, you see as if you are reading Patanjali, right? So these are all parallelisms in these terms. Then Dhyana, Dharana and Samadhi, they are the basic crux for Sattva-Vajaya Chikitsa in Ayurveda. Then I'll not get into this because I am running short of time. I just take one or two sentences of Prakriti, because based on Prakriti, we can individualize our yoga therapy. I'm saying this with a great conscious, with great, intention, that usually there is a kind of protocol prepared for hypertension, and people, they give hypertension protocol of yogic practices to all. But I differ with this because every individual is a different person, and that is characterized by Prakriti as mentioned in Ayurveda, and it is a counterpart of Ayur genomics. Even on genomic sequencing, we can see that these Prakritis can be correlated with particular XYZ sequencing. And then if we have that kind of understanding, then we can think of which kind of yoga practices can be given or cannot be given, which kind of ahar advice has to be given to our yoga sadhaka or patient who is coming to yoga therapy. Okay, and that ahar is also mind well. It can be differentiating in a seasonal variation, because most of the time I remember that in yoga centers or yoga institutes XYZ, irrespective of various schools, many times it has been mentioned that let us have unprocessed food, or let us have sprouts. And please remember, if we take sprouts, particularly in Varsha Rutu, in monsoon, then it is known to increase your Vayu. And if there is an increase in Vayu, then there is going to be a great problems. If a person is already having constipation and if he is doing pranayama, then you don't expect him to have good control on his anal region, and then he may not have Mula Bandha to exact way. or otherwise if he is doing Mulabandha in a condition like piles, then he will have further complications. So all these are very intricate, areas, and for which we don't make person learn Ayurveda for 5.5 years so as to that he will practice Ayurveda per se. But even while learning or practicing yoga, he should be able to utilize yogic principle, Ayurvedic principles, so that in future it will be useful. If chairperson give me 1 or 2 more minutes, then I'll show 2 or 3 slides with reference to asana practice and how it is application. Am I allowed, sir? Or shall I end?
Just a minute, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Only 1 or 2 slides, I'll say. So here there is a Falashruti from Josnatika, Brahmananda Swamiji's Josnatika, and Vaishamya Sapta Dhatunam Nashayanti Murtata. If you do these particular asana practices, then here, unless you don't know what are the Sapta Dhatus and what is the importance, it will not be possible to understand. Same way, Paschimottanasana, Udayam Jataranallasya Kuryad Udare Karsham Arogatam Cha Punsam. So Jataranala Agni, that is Jataragni. So the concept of Jataragni, if it is very clear, then it will be useful. Or Karsham Udare. So Udara Karsham can be understood with Staulyam or otherwise in other diseases, and then it can be utilized. Okay, then Dehagni Vardate Nityam Sarva Roga Vinashanam. So Deha Agni. Now Deha Agni means we just see the translation Deha Agni. That's it. But within Deha, we have got 13 types of Agni. So Panchabhutagni, Saptadhattvagni, and Jataragni. So all these Agni can be increased or can be enhanced by the practice of Bhujangasana. Now in Bhujangasana, Sarvaroga Vinashanam. So how Sarvaroga Vinashanam? So here you can see that it can be utilized for emphysema, it can be utilized for alveolar collapse, it can be utilized for irritable bowel syndrome, it can be utilized for psychiatric cases like your anxiety and depression, and also in cases of hernia. And all these particular cases, while doing Bhujangasana, you have to know how you are going to inhale and how you are going to exhale, whether you are supposed to hold the breath before or after or what. I'm not reading that, but likewise, I think if we have this kind of things, then it will be useful. In next few days at Kaivalya Dham, between 12 to 19, I'll be conducting workshop on the very same aspect. 6 days residential workshop. So those who are really interested can visit Kaivalya Dham site and can read more about it. And once again, I thanks chairperson to give me 1 more minute, and organizers to allow me and give me opportunity to speak little different topic over here. Thank you very much. Dhanyavad.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving such a thought-provoking presentation.
Thank you.
Now we are taking some questions and answers. If you have questions, please raise your hands. Any questions?
Questions are for all the 3 sessions, no, madam? For all the 3 papers, right?
Yes. Questions for all 3 papers. There is one question in chat box. Can you read, Medha?
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Ashish has a question. Wheat is advised to consume, but wheat is not our Indian native grain.
No. Goduma
wheat was already brought to Bharatavarsha by the foreigners.
In most of the Ayurvedic treatise, in Nigantus particularly, Bhavaprakash Nigantu and so many other Nigantus, they are mentioning about wheat. Okay, so wheat was very much known to Indians since ages. And not just that, they have given various types of wheat, Nandigram wheat and so many types of wheat they have mentioned. And they have given the properties of what kind of variety has got what kind of benefits. So I do agree that it could have come from outside, but to ancient India, in Ayurveda, you have very clear-cut mention about Godhuma. Godhuma is wheat.
Even in the Vedas,
May I add, sir, may I add a word to this?
Godhumaschame, Yavaschame, Masur.
Yes, perfect.
Priyaschame, Anavaschame. In Chamaka Prashna, in Taittiriya Samhita, we have reference to Godhuma.
Godhuma.
Yes.
And sir, when we are talking of India, it is colonized India. That's what they are talking.
Right.
From abroad. So
Correct.
Akhanda Bharata extended to a very
Yes,
large
absolutely.
geographical area.
Yes.
Kalpana Mehta has a question.
Ashish sir, can you switch off your screen sharing mode so that we can
That's
view
what I was trying
all
to
the three?
see from where
we can view all the three participants.
You can do stop sharing screen.
From where I should do. Stop video.
Can the host try to disable share screen for him?
Please, because I
That would be
can't do
better.
from here.
Yes.
Please. I was trying to, close the screen only, but then. Yeah.
Yes, Kalpana Mehta has a question. Kalpana Mehta ji, you can ask. Can you hear me? Kalpana Mehta ji?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
Hello, namaste. Can you hear me?
Yes. Ask.
Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful session. And I'm very much interested in Ayurveda all the time. And your session has really created more interest in me. So my question is regarding this. You have said that Madhura Ras should be taken first. But what about those who have diabetes?
Yeah. So see, whatever I have mentioned, that was for, in general, for common swastha people. But coming down to even diabetes, to which we call Madhumeha or Prameha in Ayurveda, they have also mentioned about certain, references are going for Madhu, that is honey, which is Madhura and Kashaya Rasatma. Okay. Other thing, Madhura means it's not alone sugar and not alone jaggery. If you just chew rice, if you just chew roti made up of gehu, goduma, or if you just take roti of jwari, then you will realize that is also Madhura. Okay, so when we say that it has to be started with Madhura, it need not be payasam or it need not be jalebi or shrikhand. Okay, it has to be started with something which has got Madhura rasa in general. So usually Indian thali, we start with either rice or roti. At the one side, we have got lemon and salt and pickles and then kachumbar. And on the other side, right hand side, we have got vegetables, then dal, and then some sweet. Okay, so it is full of Madhura, Amla, and Lavana. One go, because you squeeze lemon, you have little salt or chutney or pickle along with. And then your vegetables, they do contain tadka, that bagar, fodni, we Marathi. So that contains hing, that contains jeera, that contains mohri, that is rai. That is all katu tikta rasatmak dravya. And this katu tikta rasatmak dravya, they are having agneya tattva. So why we should know Panchamahabhut? Because Panchamahabhut properties, if you know, then Agni and Vayu and Akash, they are having in this Katu and Tikta. And once that is been actually prepared in that particular fashion, in a place which is termed as Swayampaka Griha in Sanskrit, Swayampaka Griha, the place where the digestion of those food articles get digested in themselves by particular processes. It gets digested themselves outside body, and then these katu tikta rasatmak dravya, this Agni, Vayu, and Akash tattva, they divide the Mahabhautik Sangatan of this food, and it becomes easy to get assimilable by body, and then it becomes Laghupaki. When we say kitchen, you don't understand the concept of Swayampaka Griha. I hope it is clear.
Yeah. This is
and at the end we eat pan, but pan is devoid of, that is Naga Velapatra. That is devoid of chuna and katha and tambaku. Okay.
Okay.
It is only to be taken only Tamalapatra, that is the Vidyacha Pan, Nagvelapatra, not Tamalapatra, Nagavelapatra. Or sometime it is also to be, some people they practice of eating supari, but again Pugafala. That Pugafala is also very Kashaya Tama rather. But Ayurveda again says that if you take this supari in excess, then it jadai jivam. So it creates problem for chanting and all. So it is not to be taken in excess. But you start with Madura and you end up with Kashaya. That is the sequence which has been mentioned. And if we follow that, even for Yoga Sadhaka, it is going to be useful.
Okay, sir. I would also like to know about this vegan thing is going on a lot in nowadays.
I think we have to go ahead because.
Okay, sir. Sir, I just would like to connect to you. So how can I that I really not want to know? Thank you so much for giving inquiry to all this. Thanks a lot.
Veena Menon has a question. Veena Menon.
Yes, Namo Nama to everyone. The three presenters have been extremely great and very informative. I have a question to Dr. Rajeshwar Mukherjee regarding what was spoken about the consciousness. Now, when we're talking about this cosmopsychism, it's a very small question, sir. I wanted to know whether it includes all the 5 levels of consciousness. Are they all detailed under this? Each one of the 5 levels detailed under this cosmopsychism. I think sir is not able to unmute himself.
Your voice is too much low.
My voice?
Can you raise your volume?
Is it to address to me?
No, you are not audible properly. Okay.
Yeah, her question was to
Please
Professor
unmute Dr. Rajeshwar Mukherjee. Please, host, please unmute him. I could not do it from my end.
Yes, madam, I couldn't get your question.
So, when you're talking about the consciousness in cosmopsychism, are all the 5 levels of consciousness detailed separately, dealt with separately under cosmopsychism?
Oh, the 5. So I think you are trying to refer to the Panchakosha paradigm.
I'm referring to the subconscious, unconscious, superconscious, glorified, and the unified consciousness.
No. In that way, it has not been defined. It has been defined. Only 2 levels have been defined. One is the material and the physical level, and the other is the phenomenal level or the psychological level. And thus, sustaining these 2 levels is the level which is called the causal level.
Okay. They're only been delegated at 3 levels.
Yes. Like this gross body, subtle body, and the causal body, Karana Sarira, Shukshma Sarira, Sthula Sarira. Similarly, they have done it. And he has extended his endorsement to Indian philosophy and Indian wisdom.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
We have a question from Ramakrishnan. Ramakrishnan, sir, you can ask. Ramakrishnan, sir.
Am I audible?
Voice is too much low.
What? I am actually at 100%. I don't know. What about now?
Yes, it's good.
Okay. So I have a question to Rajeshwar Mahodaya. One question is, sir, you didn't touch upon the Big Bang theory, the scientific view of creation, vis-a-vis our creation as mentioned in our Shastras, which says that it was the sound of Om with which the whole creation was created, and the sound which permeates the entire cosmos. Number one. And number two, not on a cynical note to the so-called modern scientific community, if consciousness is not amenable to the Indriyas, it is beyond the Indriyas, how can they do any experimentation using scientific equipments? So I just wanted your thoughts on these two questions, sir.
So two questions. The first of all, why didn't I refer to the Big Bang theory? There are two primary reasons for that. The first reading is it is not a cosmological model. It's a model of consciousness, or we can say it's to some extent a psychological model. And what I have said in my observations is that we must, this cosmopsychism must develop the cosmological counterpart of this model to give rise to a full-fledged model of the phenomenal reality. And about the Big Bang theory, let me tell you that the Big Bang theory is the most popular theory in the field of cosmology, and is the most debatable theory and controversial theory in this field. And as a matter of fact, this Big Bang theory has many rival theories, namely, this steady state theory, the cyclic universe, the theory of the M theory, and its string theory counterpart. So all these theories have been there. So I felt that there is no special need to mention Big Bang theory. However, this is not a cosmological model. This is a purely model which deals with the psychology and not with the cosmology, which definitely has some sort of cosmological counterpart.
Okay.
On the other hand, the other question, what was the other question? What was your other question?
Just trying to.
The other question he asked was, consciousness is Atindriya. Then how can you?
You see, if you refer to the Panchakosha, it's not the Panchakosha paradigm. If you refer to the Taittiriya Upanishad, you will find that the Supreme Brahman, who is beyond names, form, Shantam, Shivam, Advaitam, Chadurdam Manyante, Sa Atma Sa Vijna, that Supreme Consciousness, that has manifested in different levels and different layers in the phenomenal world. Naturally, consciousness is the central idea, or the crux of the theory is that this world around is the evolution of matter and the manifestation of consciousness. So we cannot, I reiterate that we cannot to some extent measure consciousness, but we can have a feel, we can observe, we can experiment with the signatures of consciousness. As regards black hole, who has seen a black hole? Is there any powerful instrument by which the black hole can be detected? No, not at all. But how can we know that there is a black hole? By the signatures of black hole. There are several signatures by which we can rather infer that there is a black hole. Similarly, about the consciousness cannot be experimented with. It is beyond all sorts of tangibility. So that is true, but the different aspects of consciousness are there, which are the signatures of consciousness and the manifestations of consciousness. Through those signatures and through those manifestations, we are able to experiment with, study, and delve deep into the realm of consciousness.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks. Actually, that ties up with my understanding too. I read somewhere that the spirit is pure awareness, which you can call it as radiation. And when it reduces in vibration, it becomes thought vibrations.
Definitely, all those aspects are there, but we had a very little time to cover all the grounds.
And matter is nothing but condensed thought.
Yes, all those aspects are there. And if I get sufficient time later, or if I interact with you later, we will definitely go for all those discussions.
Thank you so much, all of you. Because of the time limit, we are ending the session here. Now I request our chairperson to give his expert comments.
Namaste. It was indeed a very good opportunity for me to listen to all the three very beautiful talks this morning. I observed three aspects common to all the three talks. One is very disciplined, in the sense of time discipline was maintained by each of the speaker, very prompt, very experienced, since their experience shows in that aspect. And then well structured. Each of the talk was very well structured, was to the point, and highlighting very significant aspects. And then the third aspect about all the three talks is they touched upon vital areas. I could see that from the three talks, two of them, they touched a core area of Yoga Shastra, and one is a frontier area. So the talk by Dr. Rajeshwar Mukherjee was on cosmopsychism, which is the frontier area, an interface that is happening or is set to happen, or he has already given the Nandi for the connection that should happen, the acknowledgements that should have been given to Yoga Shastra by the physicists and the cosmologists who are and the psychologists who are working in that area. So the acknowledgement comes first, and then of course joint work should be undertaken. So that frontier area has been very beautifully brought up and gives when there is a resurgent interest in Indian knowledge systems, many students, scholars, PhD fellows, research fellows could be very much interested in taking up this area of cosmopsychism. So thank you very much for bringing up that beautiful, wonderful frontier area, sir. And then on the other two talks, one was on yoga and Shvetashvatara Upanishad. And that is a beautiful exhibition of how systematic and disciplined textual study can be. And my paper later is about to mention that how the empirical research and textual study should go together. So while empirical research in yoga is happening very well, integration of textual studies in a very disciplined manner, in a very systematic manner has to be done. And the paper by Dr. Vaishali Dabkeji was such an exhibition of how to systematically analyze a text. It's how Shvetashvatara is a locus classicus, and how it brings together Sankhya, Yoga and Vedanta. All this was brought together very well, and it's a lesson for all researchers and upcoming students and aspirants in the field of yoga as to how to do textual study. So Swadhyaya, the importance of Swadhyaya in yoga, we could see. And then with regard to the final talk by the experienced Ashish Phadkeji, it's very important that the complementary nature of yoga and Ayurveda are brought together. So when he was talking on the dietary prescriptions given in Hatha Yoga for a Hatha Yogi, and then when he was comparing the Ayurvedic, presenting the Ayurvedic inputs, that could itself become the core area of the talk. So he touched upon so many aspects. This could itself have been focused upon more and elaborated. I would suggest Dr. Ashish Phadkeji to do a concordance, to work on a publication where a concordance can be done wherever there is a dietary prescription, ahara niyama which is spoken, and certain ahara padarthas are spoken in the Yoga Shastra. The why of it can be explained from Ayurveda literature, and a concordance and a compilation can be brought about so that it becomes a study material, a text for students pursuing various levels of courses. So thus, these are very interesting and important topics, and this also shows the multifaceted nature, that connections with Ayurveda, connections with the philosophy and frontiers of science, and it is connected to the textual aspects of the Shastra. So in this way, the multifaceted nature of the subject has been very well brought out, and it also brought out the excellent achievements of the scholars and a very systematic presentation. I congratulate all the presenters, and I hope all those who listened to the talk would have been benefited and have got insights and inputs for further research and study. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, all of you. Thank you, the chairperson, all the speakers. Now we are ending the session here. We are starting the next session immediately. Now I request Brushali Potnis Damle to take over.
Thank you, Medha. Namo Namaha. A very warm welcome to all of you present here to session 4 of this conference on yoga theory and practice. My name is Brushali Potnis Damle, and I will take you through this session. We have had some great speakers in the last 3 sessions. This last session also promises to be a very interesting one. Now we have 3 eminent speakers in this session. We have Dr. Jayaraman Madhavan, Dr. R.S. Bhogal, and Shri Delson Armstrong. This session will be chaired by Dr. Madhvi Narsare. I will start with introducing Dr. Madhvi Narsare. Dr. Narsare is an associate professor at the Department of Sanskrit, University of Mumbai. She has authored 5 books, published more than 50 research articles. She has completed 4 projects funded by UGC, University of Dartmouth, and University of Mumbai. She is a consultant for various media channels on religious matters, and at present, she holds an additional charge as Director, Center for Extramural Studies, and Deputy Director, Center for Hindu Studies. But welcome, Dr. Narsare. We shall now start the session with our first speaker, Dr. Madhavan. Now, Dr. Madhavan has been introduced just in the earlier session this morning as he had chaired the first session today. I shall only say that it has been a great pleasure for the Department of Sanskrit, University of Mumbai to have you, Dr. Madhavan, on this platform. Your valuable comments as chairman earlier today were very, very well received, and we look forward to hearing you speak in the present session. So welcome, Dr. Madhavan, to this session. He shall be presenting a paper on bridging theory and practice in yoga, insights from the Jyotsna commentary of Hatha Yoga Pradipika. If I may, Dr. Madhavan, can I please request you to present your paper and limit your presentation to say about 20-25 minutes since we are running slightly late. And Dr. Narsare, should we take up all the questions for all 3 speakers at the end of the session? What would you suggest?
At the end.
At the end, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Dr. Madhavan, over to you.
Thank you very much. I will commence my session right away. I would just like to do a small invocation. Yogena chittasya patena vacham padam sharirasya chaidyakena sopakarottam pravaram muninam patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi. So without taking much time in further introduction or other aspects, I straight away go into my paper. The topic, as is evident, is bridging theory and practice in yoga. Insights from Jyotsna commentary of Hatha Yoga Pradipika. I would just like to start away by bringing to your attention a paper which was recently published, which I worked together along with a few scholars, very eminent scholars like Dr. Shirley Tells and others, on a comparison of practice guidelines for yoga breathing from traditional texts and the PubMed index research. So the basic work that was done in this paper was what are the inputs that are given in the traditional texts, especially in the context of Bhastrika, a few practices only: Bhastrika Pranayama, Brahmari Pranayama, and Kapalabhati. And what are the descriptions that you find in a PubMed research paper, and then what is the descriptions in the traditional literature like Gherana Samhita and Hatha Yoga Pradipika. I don't want to go into the details of the paper, but the observations therein should be noted, which are marked in yellow, where you can see differences between practice guidelines in traditional texts and published research with respect to the depth of breathing, relative breath phase during phase duration, and breath frequency are presented. So there is significant difference between the paper reports, that there is significant difference between what is reported in the text and what is there in the research papers in PubMed index research that you can see. And what will be the implication of this? As you can see, differences in this, differences in this way will have physiological effects. The differences in physiological effects, etc., would be felt towards the end of the paper abstract. You can see that. So there will be serious differences in the impact or the desired results. So if there is this gap between the traditional literature and the inputs that are traditionally envisioned for specific practices of yoga, and what is being applied or what is being experimented in the current day yoga research. So it is so this highlights that there is a gap which needs to be bridged between the traditional practices, and that is the research practices or experimentation, and the traditional inputs. So it should happen at the learning phase itself. When that bridge is built very strong between the literary or traditional textual practices and the practical aspects of yoga, then such gaps will not occur. So now the next question will come to the mind. So the literature, normally we see generally when people perceive about literature, oh, it has philosophical inputs, etc. It gives philosophical framework, etc. I'm just going by general perception, not for the scholars. By general perception, or any student, any entrant, any researcher, there are so many interdisciplinary researchers. People come from other disciplines and also want to try to explore yoga. So how practical are the yoga inputs in the yoga literature? Or is it merely philosophical inputs and general frameworks and descriptions that we find in the literature? So we can see that in the context of asana, pranayam, kriya, bandhas and mudras, all these are practical aspects of yoga. They are centered on yoga. Yoga therapy is centered on these. And then for each of these, we have very practical insights and inputs from our traditional literature, which will only go to enhance the quality of practice and thereby enhance the output that will be received in the process of experimentation. Only if these textual inputs, practical inputs are heeded in the process of practicing yoga. Now I'll just go into the examples on each of these aspects, one or two examples in each cases, so that I can quickly bring to focus as to how valuable and practical the textual inputs are for each of these therapeutically significant practices of yoga. Now I'll get into the asana aspects. So the Dhanurasana is very famous, and not only when, as highlighted by the previous speakers also, by Ashish ji, who spoke about Ayurveda and yoga, he spoke that the text is read and then the translation is read and people jump into the conclusion right away. But so the same case, let us examine this Akarana Dhanurasana, which is spoken in Hatha Yoga Pradipika. Padangushtau tu panibhyam grihitva shravanavati dhanur akarshanam kuryat dhanurasanam uchyate. Taking hold of the toes with the hands and draw up to the ears as if drawing a bow. There are so many which need, means the translation itself is not complete. How do we know? Because should both if this is Akarana Dhanurasana as per Hatha Yoga Pradipika Jyotsna commentary, this is the description of Akarana Dhanurasana. So which toe has to be drawn, all those details are missing or kind of is not apparent from the shloka or its mere translation itself. We have to go to the commentary Hatha Yoga Pradipika Jyotsna, where we can see Grihitangushtam ekam panim prasaritam kritva Grihitangushtam itaram panim karna paryantam akunchitam kuryad ityartha. Of course, both the legs are to be stretched, the toes are to be held. Then one leg which is holding the toes should be kept stretched, and the other leg is to be Grihitangushtam itaram panim. The other hand which is holding the toes of the leg should be brought till the ear. So clear, so precise that this is the process of Akarana Dhanurasana. While it is not apparent from the general translation of the shloka on Dhanurasana, the commentary chips in with more details where the description, instruction is precise, so that the practitioner does not have any doubt about how to do this Akarana Dhanurasana. Another example, much more detailed example on asana itself. This prasiddha, famous shloka on Paschimottanasana or Paschimottanasana. This is Paschimottanasana as per Hatha Yoga Pradipika. We see Prasarya Pado Bhuvi Dandarupo Dorbhyam Padagrad Vitayang Grihitva Janu Parinyasta Lalata Deshaha Vase Didam Paschimotana Mahu. So the Paschimottanasana is known to everyone, but let us see the description that the shloka here gives. So Prasarya Padam Bhuvi Dandarupo, extend the feet on the ground straight like a stick. Okay. And then Dorbhyam Padagrad Vitayang Grihitva, by the hands, the toes are to be held, or especially the tip of the legs are to be held. Padagra, pada-agra, tip of the leg has to be held. And then Janu parin nyasta lalata deshaha, the forehead region should be kept on the knees. And one should say, Vaset idam paschimatana mabuhu. So the translation, of course, will be there as per the shloka. So, but here the question will be there. Both the legs are extended. Should the feet be apart or should the feet be together? Both the feet. And then by the arms, hold the tip of the leg. Padagra dvitayam. So here by the arms means, does it mean the fingers? And then also, then by which finger? That question will remain. And then padagra, what is the meaning of padagra? So that also remains. What is the tip that is meant here? So in this way, all these, the general translation as such, and also the source text is very brief. So, but all those doubts are put to rest by the detailed commentary literature, where we can see, should the feet to be together or should the extended feet should be apart? So to that the commentator answers, Dandakaru Slishta Gulthau, means both the ankle region should be touching each other. So both the ankles of both the legs are to be touching each other. So hence both the feet are together essentially. And then Dorbhyam Akunchita Tarjani Bhyam. So with the hands it has to be held. How? With the hooked. Tarjani is the index finger. The index finger has to be hooked. And then Padayoho Agraha Padayoho Agre Agrabhagau Dvayam Angushta Pradesha Yugmam. So the Padagra is also clarified as the Angushta Pradesha, the toe region of both the feet. So whatever was the question that is in the mind or the doubt that a person will have on reading merely the shloka and its translation, all that is clarified when we go into the commentary literature. And not only that, the commentary also goes one step further. Yatha jan vado bhagasya bhumer utthanam nasya tatha grihitva. Further, while placing the forehead on the knee, the lower region, lower part, jan vado bhagaha, the lower region of the knees should not raise from the ground. So it should stay with the ground. So that additional information, additional clarification on the practice of the most famous asana that we gain directly from the commentary literature itself. This shows that on very practical aspects of asana, I'm just giving you a few examples only. There are so many such inputs from the commentary, where the text with the commentary is very resourceful. In our traditional way of learning texts, where we always study the text with the commentary. Only with the commentary, the acquired wisdom will be more complete. So this is the practical input that we gain on the asanas. Now let us get into from the text, from the commentary literature especially. Then we get to some insights on pranayama from the text. So one famous shloka that everyone might be aware is how to do pranayama. What are the thumb rules in the practice of pranayama? Again, a famous shloka in the second chapter of Hatha Yoga Pradipika, we see Yuktam Yuktam Tejed Vayum, Yuktam Yuktam Cha Purayet, Yuktam Yuktam Cha Badhniya, Evam Siddhim Avapnuyat. So the translation you can see, one should gradually exhale the breath and then gradually inhale it, and then one should also restrain it gradually. Evam Siddhim Avapnuyat. This is how Siddhi is attained. So both in Hatha Yoga Pradipika and also in the translation, you get only the expression Yuktam Yuktam or gradually. What is gradual in exhalation? What is gradual in inhalation? And what is gradual in retention of the breath? So these are very essential components. See, Uraka, Rechaka, Kumbhaka are essential components. They have to be done Yuktam. What does that Yuktam means? How do we define, how do we understand what is gradual in inhalation, exhalation and holding the breath? So you have to go to the commentary. So it comes to the rescue. Rechana kale shanaishanireva rechayet na vegataha ityarthaha. When we exhale, the appropriate exhalation is slow exhalation. There should be no urgency in exhaling the breath. So shanaishanireva rechayet. So this is the thumb rule for any exhalation. excepting the Kapalabhati and Bhastrika, of course, where rapid exhalation is advised expressly. Otherwise, as a thumb rule, exhalation should always be slowly. Then what is inhalation? Shanaihi. So what is inhalation? Yuktam. Inhalation. Yuktam purayet. Yuktam yuktancha. Nacha alpam. Nacha adhikam. In the context of inhalation, the inhaled breath, the quantity of the breath should neither be more nor be less. So hence the quantity is what is yuktam. The yukta quantity or volume of air has to be inhaled. So that is a thumb rule for inhalation across pranayama techniques. And then yuktam in the context of holding the breath. What is that? Jalandhara bandhadi yuktam badhniyat kumbhaye. Holding the breath does not mean physically inhaling and holding the breath. So holding the breath appropriately is holding the breath with the three bandhas: Jalandhara bandha, Mula bandha, and Udyana bandha. This is yuktam badhniyat. So whenever there is a kumbhaka spoken, the appropriate way of holding the breath within is holding with the three bandhas. So we can see the word yuktam alone is there in the Mula Shloka and the translation. So while inhalation, it refers to quantity, while exhalation, it refers to the pace, and while retention, it refers to the bandhas that are to be incorporated during the holding of the breath within. So these are the, again, very practical, very resourceful and pervasive rule on pranayama, across pranayama techniques, which are mostly overlooked in the urgency to read only the Mula Shloka and the translation. So again, another example on pranayama that I would like to present is the Sitkari pranayama. Sitkam, you have to see the shloka. Sitkam kuryat tatha vaktre ghrane naiva vijrumbikam. What does the shloka say? Make a seat sound in the mouth and then exhale through the nostril. Do this sound for inhalation and then exhale through the nostrils. Ghrane naiva vijrumbikam. Now the question will come, do we have the retention here in this pranayama? The question is there. Because the prakarana started with Ashtakumbhaka. In Ashtakumbhaka you have this Sitkari. But the shloka does not mention the Antakumbhaka component here. Whereas for Surya Vedana, etc., the Antakumbhaka component was mentioned. So you don't have it. Then what is, do we really have a Kumbhaka here? To that, to allay that doubt, to set to rest the doubt, the commentator steps in and he says, Kumbhakastu anuktopi Sitkaryaha kumbhakatvadeva avagantavyaha. Though in the shloka which describes Sitkari, the Kumbhaka component is not mentioned, Anuktahapi, as Sitkari has already been designated as a Kumbhaka, it should be understood that Kumbhaka component is very essentially there. So do the seed sound and inhale the breath, and then do the Kumbhaka and then exhale through the nostril. So the commentary literature brings in the Jyotsna commentary, brings in the hidden or rather not available to the surface level, the Kumbhaka component that is existed in the practice of Sitkari Kumbhaka. So thus it has become a very, means this insight sets to rest or anxiety whether this component is really there or not. So that is clarified by the commentary herein. So we have seen asana, how practical insights from the commentary lore comes in. And then for pranayama, we have seen two examples. Now let us get into the kriya aspect of it. I am trying to touch all aspects of the practice of yoga. So where in the kriya aspect also, you have this dhauti karma, chaturangula vistaram, hasta pancha dashayatam, gurupadishta margena, siktam vastram shanair grase, punah pratyahare chaita uditam dhauti karma tat. So dhauti karma is described here. Many of you will be aware of it because most of the participants here are experts in yoga. So I don't need to expound more on the dhauti karma. And let me focus only on the word that is bold and underlined, shanaihi grase. So the wet cloth that is prescribed has to be swallowed slowly. Shanaihi grase. What is the meaning of the shanaihi here? It is translated as slowly. So is the pace of it alone intended when they say Shanaihi? So we go consult the commentary. We can see that Shanaihi mandam mandam kinchit kinchit graset. So two dimensions are brought out by the word Shanaihi. Shanaihi, not only should the activity of dhauti be done slowly, it should also be done bit by bit. Means the quantity one should not thrust the cloth into the mouth, though one has to do it, and also one has to do it in a paced manner, means in a phased manner. The commentary says, Ditiye dine hastadvayam, tritiye dine hastatrayam, evam dinavridhya hastamatradhikam grase. So Shanaihi also means on the first day, one span of cloth alone should be. So 15 spans of cloth for swallowing is advised in the dhauti karma. On the first day, Shanaihi means not only slowly swallowing, limit it only to one span of ekahasta matram grase. On the second day, 2, third day, 3, fourth day, 4. So in this way, dinavridhya vastra grasanam adhikam kurya. So and also not only that, so we get the meaning of the Shanaihi being enlarged, made more insightful. And not only that, the commentator goes one step forward and says, so the shloka as such said that you swallow the cloth, punah pratyahare, just bring it out. So swallow the cloth and then bring it out. In between the swallowing the cloth and bringing it out, the commentator adds one important dimension, which is tasya prantam rajadanta madhye lagnam kritva nauli karmana udarasthalam samyak chalayitva. So after swallowing and before extracting, so what happens? The last bit of the cloth should be held within the teeth, in between the teeth, and then one should practice nauli. Samyak chalayitva, nauli karmana samyak chalayitva pratyahare. So it is not merely swallowing and bringing it out. Swallowing, doing the nauli karma, and then bringing it back. That will only assist in the activity of cleansing. Otherwise, the cleansing would be minimal. That is, merely swallowing and bringing it back might not execute the intended intention of Shuddhi Kriya that the dhauti has to do in the Udarasthala. So in this way, again, you can see the commentary literature, that is Jyotsna commentary, especially being very resourceful and very practical, adding very unknown and important critical dimensions. Now, so we have seen asana, pranayama, kriya, and a couple of examples for mudras and bandhas. With that, I will wrap up. So the very meaning of the word mudra. So normally, popularly, the word mudra is translated as great seal, Mahamudra, for example. So Mahamudra. So that is, so it is a great seal. So great seal or great walrus, we do not know. But what is the meaning of mudra? So it is merely a seal or sealing the portion or sealing the portion of the body. Is that what is intended by the word Mahamudra, Mudranam? But that would be a superficial meaning. But what is the yogic context? In the yogic context, what is the meaning of the word mudra in the context of Mahamudra and such other practices? The Jyotsna commentary again chips in. It says, Mahakleshan Maranadincha doshan mudrayati shamayati mahamudra iti vyutpatti rityarthaha. So mudra in the context, it does not mean seal, it is pacifying. Mudrayati shamayati iti mudra. So all the practices of mudra beginning from Mahamudra are intended to pacify the various problems, Mahakleshas, Maranas, etc. So the translation, when it would apparently mislead us or it will lead us to the focusing of the physical dimension, the real intended dimension of pacifying the problems in the physical and the mental level of shamanam. So that is brought out by the vyutpatti that is shown in the commentary. And in the same way, again, so I have shown one example for mudra. I will wrap up with one final example on the bandhas as to how the commentary literature is very practical and resourceful. Now, this is Mula Bandha practice where we see Adhastat Punchanena Ashu Kantha Sankochane Krite Madhye Paschimatanena Syat Prano Brahmanadigaha. I don't need to elaborate on how the Mula Bandha practice has to be done. It is the constricting of the lower region and all the details are given here. Now, as per the text, okay, how does one know that I am doing this Mula Bandha right or not. Am I doing the Mula Bandha I may be doing as per the description, is my Mula Bandha right or not? To that, the clarification comes from the commentary when he says, when Jyotsna commentary, Acharya Brahmananda says, Mula Bandhastu samyak ajñataha nana robotpadakaha tathahi Mula Bandhe krite dhatu kshayah vishtambha agnimandyam nadamandyam gutika samuhakaram ajasyeva purisham syat tada Mula Bandhaha samyak najñataha iti bodhyam. No, I am doing it correctly only. Even if one says, if one experiences deterioration of dhatus, experiences constipation, less appetite, dullness in nada, pieces are as small balls, then your Mula Bandha is not right. Yadi dhatu pushtihi samyak malashuddhihi agnidiptihi samyak nada abhivyakti syat tada jneyam Mula Bandhaha samyak jnataha iti. On the other hand, the bowel movement is good, the dhatus are nourished, the good appetite, nada manifests, then one should understand, yes, I have learnt and I am practicing my Mula Bandha correctly. So such are the valuable insights that we get from the Jyotsna commentary, especially in the dimension of practice. So lack of clarity is avoided in the case of Akarna Dhanurasana, summarizing it, and precision in inputs on Paschimottanasana, so many precise inputs, intricate details were given in the practice of asana, avoiding superficiality and bringing in depth the practical wisdom, what is yuktam in the context of pranayama, and also the meaning of the mudra, and then bringing out unnoticed dimension, addition of essential component, whether in Sitkari there is Kumbhaka, whether in the Dhauti Prakriya there is a Nauli component there, all these are unnoticed dimension if one superficially studies the text. And then it goes, the commentary also goes an extra mile and presents the experiential wisdom as to how do I experientially know whether my Mula Bandha is right or not. So in this way, as brought out earlier, the gaps exist in what the textual wisdom has, and then what is being researched upon. That gap has to be bridged. So what could be, this is the current situation, there is gap I have highlighted. Textual studies in yoga are happening, but they do not go till the commentary literature. Yoga Sutra, of course, is studied, but not the rich 2 millennium commentary literature, that is not touched. Hatha Yoga Pradipika is studied, Jyotsna commentary is not touched upon. And also, while Sanskrita forms part of some yoga courses here and there, but it is not, it should be taught in an applied manner. When Sanskrita is taught in an applied manner, text-specific, discipline-specific manner, then it will be helpful. Of course, there are material available. I was part of a book, 4-level self-learning material that can be seen. That is a discipline-specific learning of Sanskrita applied manner. One can see in Sanskrit online that website. And also short textual yoga courses should be conducted where the focus should be on specific portions of yoga, be it asana, pranayama, the textual study with the commentary literature should be studied. Only then the knowledge will be deepened, and what our heritage that we have in the form of yoga text would be fully grasped. Only when that is fully grasped, it could be finally beneficially applied in practice, and its benefits can be derived appropriately. So when this bridge is created, as in Yoga Sutra, we see in Vyasa Bhashya, Agamena, Anumanena, Dhyanabhyasa Rasena cha, Tridha Prakalpayan Prajnam Labhate Yoga Muttamam. Currently we are in yoga. We have to move to Uttama Yoga as per Vyasa Maharshi. So for that, while Abhyasa is there, Anumana in the form of research is there, it should be the foundational step is Agama. That Agama should happen in an immersive manner, which goes and touches till the commentary literature. When that happens, then the real bridge would be built, and then the yoga, our yoga will become Uttama Yoga. I thank the organizers for the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Madhavan. That was truly insightful. I'm sure there are many, many questions for you, but I think our next speaker is already here, and we shall keep the questions for the end of the session. We'll now proceed with the next presentation. Our next speaker is Dr. R.S. Bhogal. I shall briefly introduce Dr. Bhogal. Dr. R.S. Bogle, PhD in psychology from University of Pune, relating to fundamental scientific research in meditation, is the joint director research at Kaivalyadhama, Lonavala. Kaivalyadhama Yoga Institute. Now, with more than 30 years of experience of research and teaching experience, he has been formerly the principal of Yoga College of Kaivalyadham. He is editor-in-chief of Yoga Mimamsa Journal. It's a biennial scientific indexed journal published from Kaivalyadhama. And he is the author of 7 books, including Psychology, Physiology of Traditional Yoga. This has been translated in Korean as well. Yoga and Modern Psychology, which has been translated in German. Yoga and Mental Health and Beyond in Indian languages, as well as Bulgarian, Brazilian, Portuguese, Chinese, German, Korean, Taiwanese, and Yoga Psychology and Beyond. This has been translated in German as well. Now, Dr. Bogle is credited with a large number of scientific papers and is the recipient of many national and international awards and accolades. Now, recently, he has been awarded with the prestigious Yoga Ratna Award last year, widely traveled for spreading the message of classical meditation in many, many cities across Asia, America, and Europe. He's one of the most sought after meditation experts and is ever ardent in discovering simple meditation techniques for therapeutic usage. Welcome, Dr. Bogle. And Dr. Bogle will be speaking on the topic Yoga Meditation, Dhyana, Concept, Research, and Practice. Over to you, Dr. Bogle. I would just please request if you can limit your talk to about 25 minutes. We are running a little short on time. Thank you. Thank you. Sir, you would have to unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be part of this August gathering. And organizers are to be congratulated on this very timely and very, very important topic, because we have, in fact, divorced ourselves from the real meditation 1,000 years back. Very interesting. And after that, we had Mughals and we had British, and they taught us very systematically that we are fools. But then now time is very ripe, and we have to see. We have on one hand the Dhyana Bhairava Tantra, which is the source book of all kinds of meditation. Then the Buddhists have evolved it further. And but then now the whole picture is not so encouraging. So the my aim here is, the objective of my presentation is in front of you. I want to, we want that some common thread should be gathered of the concept of dhyan meditation, not the meditation, in fact, is yoga meditation. Meditation is having the different connotation and denotation. The dhyan is dhe and an, lut pratyay, and then we have dhe is the dhatu. So it means devotional kind of longing. The meditation means a kind of, you are cogitating on certain things, certain point. So we have to be very careful. So the objectives are like this, that we need to gather all the threads which are there in our scriptures and our living traditions, so that a picture is created for the good of human being. And also the other objective is, post-pandemic, we have a renewed renewed kind of interest in dhyan. So where is authentic principles of dhyan? Anybody is coming with any kind of thing, and the concepts, the basic research which are there in our books, ancient books and living traditions, are normally missing. Even the very big stalwart also make such kind of mistake. Anyway, let us come down. What is the concept of meditation? Dhyan is the conscious process of holistic healing, conscious process of holistic healing on all levels, towards continual wellness and transcendence. That's very important point, transcendence. So dhyan, as I have spoken already, engaging oneself consciously into devotional longing. Devotional longing. The term meditation does not denote this. It is something different. Now, conscious devotional longing leads to what? Why it is important? Because we have comprehensive awareness and comprehensive freedom. It leads to kind of comprehensive awareness and abstract awareness. See, when you go to temple and we close our eyes, if someone asks, what did you feel? What did I feel? something. I cannot explain it. That is abstract awareness. Abstract awareness is the only road towards meditation. No other road is there. Abstract awareness is nirvichar samapatti. After that, we have immediately dharana. So, Sukshma Vishyatam Chalinga Parivasanam, Patanjali Yoga Sutra says, the nirvichar, we cannot understand. Cha alinga, we cannot know what it is. So we have to come to that stage where we simply feel, but words are not there, thoughts are not there. Instead of fighting with thoughts, we have to go for abstract awareness because there are already no chance of entering of thoughts and any kind of thing, such kind of things. So here, and now we go further. What is, we have to have psychophysiological preparation for meditation of that yoga dhyan. So I would now onwards use the word dhyan. Postural, Dandasana, Rishabhasana, Parvatasana, Brahma Mudra, it has very minimum kind of asanas. They can help us in that is dhyan practice. Now, Shankaracharya has said, Yoga se prathamam dwaram vanga nirodha parigraha nirasha cha niriha cha nitya ekanta shelita. In nutshell, it is suspend subvocal purpleization. Feel your reflection in all existence. Feel you are to go it alone and expect nothing from others. So spiritual, this from Vivek Chudamani also we have this thing, because that is these are the four things. 367, which I quoted, the shlok. Now, Kapalbhati is very important, and continue with meditative mode with the spirit. Spirit of Ano Bhadraha Rituva Yantu Vishwata, because we need to have such kind of thing. And then we are ready for meditation. It's not that simply come on, close your eyes and feel this, and you are walking on the clouds and around there are all fragrance and something. These are all visualization. There is no book available, ancient books, where we have visualization. Yes, there are marmas are there, nyasa is there, but no. But then some people are doing it, and because there is a lack of coherence about the basic concepts. Now, yogic reasoning. Now this is and yogic reasoning behind the concept, and we have Shakti Traya here. Mainly, Jnana Shakti and Kriya Shakti is working in dhyana process. Now, after Goraksha Shatak, very few. In fact, many things have been lost in the passage of time, and also our invaders, they have done all wonders in all destroying all our heritage, and that's a very pathetic thing. But something is remaining. For example, Goraksha Shatak says, Sarvam Chinta Samavarti Yogino Ridhi Vartate, Yat Tattve Nishitam Chetas Tattu Dhyanam Prachakshate. Such kind of guidance is available to us still. At any given time, a yogi has got many emotions. See, vichar is not only thought. In Sanskrit, you are all Sanskrit scholar, you know it. Vichar charati by vichara. It means whatever moves, emotions, feelings, thoughts, experiences, but we have very narrow meaning. It's a thoughtlessness stage. Why? Why thoughtlessness? It's a ridiculous. It is something you have to transcend. Vichar, not thought. See, these are all misconceptions. Now, sure principle is the phenomenon of ultimate reality. And elsewhere also, tatasita bodhyanti guruvo stitiyo yatha. Pajna eva taret vidwanam ishvara anugrihitaya, Shankaracharya has said. That means you need to have that kind of phenomenon, ultimate reality. Karta bhav leads to misery and drashta bhav leads to balance, that we know. So here it is. And now, next. Yoga meditation, therapeutic. So this is the therapeutic definition of this. This is conscious healing. You can go through this if you are want of time. Now, Patanjali Yoga Sutra, you know it. Tatra pratyaya ekatanata dhyanam. There happens, yogic concentration happens. Not doing thing is there. We say that I am doing dhyan, I am doing meditation. No, man, it is dharana. Until dharana, you can have something to do. But the effect is dhyan. So that is the classical approach. Process of meditation, conscious and effortless non-doing. Conscious, effortless non-doing. And even we go beyond non-doing also, we will see later on. Now here, neutral state of attention indicated by abstract awareness. When you have abstract kind of thing, I am feeling something, therefore In Vijnana Bhairav Tantra, it is said we have to look at the void, feel, hollowness, nothing is there, and fullness is there. It means this is abstract. So there is a neutral state of attention. Amurta bhav, not the murta, is the bedrock of all samapatis, dharana, and dhyan. In the process, chitta prana interaction is restored to its best. Chitta prana interaction. When we are amurta bhav, otherwise we take stand. This is good, this is bad, this is not good, this is that. But when we are having amurta bhav, we are beyond, we transcend all kinds of chitta prana, say, projections. And therefore, we transcend all existential disorders on the perceptual plane. And then yoga practices try to bring the internal sensations to the field of comprehensive awareness, actually, including dhyan. What happens as Paranchi Khani Vyatinat Swayambhut Tasmat, Paran Pashyati Nantaratman, Kasche Dhira Pratyak Atmanam, Akshadavrit Chakshuha Amrit Tattvam Icchan. Shankaracharya has said that we have outside the orifice there. Inside we have the consciousness, right? Deep inside. And in the intermediate level, say the stomach and the islets of Langerhans and the gastric tone, all kinds of these things are internal, that is interoception. And deep inside, more deep is consciousness. But the problem is that the face of the consciousness, Chetana, is outside, and therefore all people go outside. Only if Kashchit Dhiraha Pratyak Atmanam, Akshadavrit Chakshuhu Amritattvam Ichana. Very few people venture to go inside. And the medium is inside, that is interoception. Therefore, in all yoga practices, including meditation, you have to feel inside what is happening, like in Vipassana. Feel what is there inside. Yes, no reaction. So that is, so here we have comprehensive awareness. And because of that, we have, when awareness is comprehensive, you know what happens? The sensory feedback is maximum. That means whatever is happening in the whole body, the information reaches brain, and the brain would issue correct orders. Do this, do this. This is a healing process. So this is, and we go ahead. Now, meditation, for ecstatic state of prasad, for as per Kathopanishad. So as I had told you already, the journey of transcend the worldly misery should start from Chidakash, not Mayakash. So then meditation technique based on this premise would enrich us in accessing the ecstatic state of prasad at will. Because when we start from inside, how? See, outside things is okay. Statue and all that and the murti puja is fine. But ultimately, all these things go inside. And then we just stimulate our Chidakash. So this is the approach in our scriptures. Yoga Merit, the technique of dharana, use Jnana Shakti and Kriya Shakti predominantly. See, obtaining a neutral state of attention to whatever way you do, there are ample different kind of yoga practices we have. Be with the happening and evidence pratyay. You have to be with the happening, but no reaction, nothing else. So pratyay happens. And then when pratyay is continued, and it gets continued automatically. Please remember. And then, and at the background of non-doing, see, words have got limitation, but our scriptures have got so succinct idea about what is dhyan, but rarely such kind of things is seen in mass media elsewhere also. Remain at this stage and you reach and practice non-doing. It happens. Any moment, Bindu. So I will speak after a while that we have Bindu, we have Vyapini Chakra, we have Brahmarandra, Dwadashanta and all that, wonderful. And it works and I'm working on it, I'm sharing it with people and with tremendous effect. Of late I have one workshop taken on intuition and people say, in fact, it works. Intuitive powers, how to get an access, because we cannot make use of our intelligence for everything. Many of our problems are lying above and far and above our intelligence. I think you agree with me. Therefore, we have to tap our intuitive powers. And for that, Vijnana Bhairav Tantra is a stellar example, if we can do it. And so that, and then we come, role of meditation in mental discomfort. Wow. Slower metabolic activity, metabolic activity slowed down due to meditation results in minimum production of carbon dioxide in the body, because the posture of seated, cross-leg posture. As a result, the mental activity of the practitioner ceases almost completely. Yet, the comprehensive awareness gets ensued. Supine meditation in Shiva Samhita, what a wonder. People would say, where there is supine meditation. Here it is. Uttana Shayane Bhumo Suptva Dhayat Nirantaram Satyah Shrama Vinashaya Swayam Yogi Vichakshana Shira Paschatu Bhagasya Mrityunjayo Bhavet Bhrumadya Drishti Matrana Yapara Parikirtita. Very succinctly. And on this PhD, I have my PhD, that is the biophase angle, the cell health gets enhanced significantly as compared to Shavasana. And also the basal metabolic rate, RMR, also gets reduced. In fact, why our yogis still in Himalayas live on a very meager food and they are hale and hearty? Because, and on the other hand, what we say that you have to burn calorie and you have to burn calorie. No, you don't have to burn. So that's a very important thing I want to speak here after some time, once I get rid of all these slides. Now, proposed biochemical base of Ananda. Dr. Rajapurkar has said 2003 that when you are meditating, some kind of cerebrospinal in the CSF, cerebrospinal fluid, what happens? Some transmitter is created, endorphin or opioid, and which is lighter than cerebrospinal fluid, and will travel upward along the central canal of the spinal cord and reach the lateral ventricle of the brain. So these chemicals on reaching the thalamus and hypothalamus may produce extrasensory perception leading to Ananda. What it is here? Here it is lateral ventricles. Through central canal, that some kind of transmitter goes upward and reach here. On reaching this here, lateral ventricle, to produce blissful state, Ananda. So Ananda is not only hearsay, it is truth. People experience it. And prasade sarva dukhanam hani rasya upajayate prasanna chetaso yasha buddhi parevatishtate. Bhagavan says so. And it's not hearsay. It's true. And why we need, what we have to do is, normally our awareness is moth-eaten. It is always disturbed by many things. So, and if our comprehensive awareness is disturbed, what happens? We are not doing justice to our values. When we don't do justice to our own values, we have guilt feeling within. Everyone who has been doing wrong thing, but in heart of his heart, he knows that it is not good, I have to do something good. So then continual growth is not there. Creativity is lost. Self-confidence is lost. And self-dependence happens. And then comprehensive freedom is lost. It goes inside. So this goes on and on. But then when we have yoga, meditation, then we start doing justice to our values. Continual growth is there. Creativity is there. Self-confidence is there. Self-dependence is there. And comprehensive freedom. So comprehensive freedom and comprehensive awareness. This is nothing but spirituality. Shankaracharya has also, Govardhan Peeth Shankaracharya has said 5 criteria of spirituality: Sat Sarup, Chit Padarth, Anand Padarth, Mukta Sarup, and Isha Sarup. Sat Chidanand, Mukta and Ish. So that we have to note in yoga practices. Now, what is the reasoning behind the benefits of meditation? As I told you, in larger extent, our interoceptive impulses do not enter the sphere of consciousness because of homeostatic function associated with the lower center of the brain, what we call this reflex action loop. Unknowingly, we do many things. But in meditation, even unknowing kind of things are slowly gone and we are aware of each and everything. So these reflex actions, हम बोलते हैं ना, मुझे पता नहीं चला मैं कुछ काम कर रहा था. Why? In yoga, no, you have to know each and everything, what is happening to you each and every moment. And then interoceptive impulses enter into the sphere of consciousness. And then we heal ourselves fully. Dhyana brings these internal sensations to the field of comprehensive awareness. The ensuing sensory feedback and brings a conscious control on all our activities, and thus healing takes place. So there is no doubt about it. So here we have benefits of Dhyana. Now, you know that because of that, now we have found out in lying down meditation, insomnia, migraine, tension, headache, body ache, hypertension, diabetes, anxiety, all are responding so wonderful way. And I invite you here at Kavaladhama or to my workshops, and you see that these kind of things happen. And what a wonder we have with Lord Shiva has said about lying supine meditation in Shiv Samhita, fifth chapter, 70th and 71st slok. Uttana Shayane Bhumo Suptva Dhyayate Terantaram. So here we have, we need such kind of things for us. The practices should be very simple, but then they give something to you. That we need, not that complicated kind of things. And we are having replete kind of such kind of things are replete in our scriptures. But only thing is that we should have time to look at them. And then we will be enriched in a great way. So here, mechanism of dhyan is preparing us for holistic living. So what it is, important thing that parallel vigilance, you have to feel the entire body, whole body. Something happening throughout the body. Not the amurta bhav, but amurta bhav. Something. In Marathi often we say, मला की नाही कसं तरी होतंय. कसं म्हणजे काय होतंय ते नाही ना. कसं काय सांगू आता मला सांगता येत नाही असे हम लोग बोलते हैं. That means it is a kind of amurta. So consciously if we do that, something is happening within the body. Mind you, immediately you feel a kind of transcendence and meditation happens. Such a wonderful things are there in our scriptures, but then we don't have time. Yoga practices bring about a shift, you know it. Then inward awareness is there. So sensory feedback, again, the same concept. We go here. Now, what is primary prerequisite? If you have maximum awareness and minimum tension, well, meditation happens immediately. Minimum tension? Yes. Maximum awareness. Then how to achieve this? Whole body awareness plus pure waiting, just wait. And with the a kind of time out spirit. I don't have to do anything, but I'm just waiting. Then neutral state of attention comes. A kind of काहीतरी होते पण काय मला कळायला मार्ग नाही. मी शब्दात सांगू शकत नाही. That is important. And then happening of meditation is there. Then this is pratyayatanat ekatanata dhyanam. Then it is continued. Then it is dhyan. And now here for minimum tension and maximum awareness, the need is abstract awareness. We have seen it. And for that abstract awareness, we have to have parallel vigilance. Feel all the parts of the body at the same time. Yeah, I am feeling. You see, sarvadna, the word is there quite in Sanskrit everywhere. I know everything. Yes, total. And then our shift of perception is changed. We start looking at the wider perspective. And there meditation happens. So wait and feel. This is the concept. Decision, no anticipation, no decision, no reactions. The resultant is dharana. Now this leads to pratyay. So we have this. Now here we have such a wonderful concepts here in our. See, from the here we have Ajna Chakra. From Ajna Chakra to Sahasrara Chakra we have therapeutic area. I am working on it, and what a wonderful results are there. And from Sahasrara Chakra to 12 finger Dwadashanta, this is the divine creativity. The person going towards this has got creative endeavors, and then going towards transcendence. And then afterwards, lot of
you, sir. You have only 2-3 minutes now.
Okay. Yeah. We go ahead. Now this is the module, which is very shortest module, and it works. It works wonder. And then we have well, I cut short all these things, and I will tell you that we have taken biphase angle, cell health, with the help of what happens with the supine meditation. And then here it is the gap. It is the biphase angle. It means the current and the voltage. The small gap is there. Now, with the help of this machine, we have measured this. It measured the cell health. Now, what a wonder. Lying to supine posture will enhance your cell health, proved with the help of machine. And then, so we have emotional intelligence also getting enhanced. And so now implication for this study may prove to be boon for bedridden people, terminal patient, particularly conditions such as in pandemic. Because in lying down posture, being a fundamental research, it may contribute to authentic form and practice of meditation. So cellular health is improved. You know that what happens, emotional intelligence. And now the last future directions. we should know the relationship with RMR with the psychophysiology. Normally, it is said that you have to burn energy. This is your calorie. But then yoga says, no, there is a ion channel regulation without phosphorylation. And then yogis, without doing all kinds of sweating, they keep their weight in control. Why? Because of meditation. Because there is a energy mobilization, but ATP is not produced. And therefore, a lot of problems are. Now, here scientists are to be should come together and see, is ion channel regulation of fatty acid in muscle activity possible? So these are the questions. Qualitative analysis also is very important. We have seen that in qualitative analysis, such kind of results were found. These are the results which tell us that how creativity is enhanced through meditation. Remember, people ask, where is the data? Where you have the creativity enhancing? Some people ask. We found these results, and these results are with me, and you are always welcome to my institution, and I will show you all these results. Lightness, freshness, abstract awareness, peace and blissfulness, sleep and concentration is better, angerlessness, problem solving is enhanced, catharsis of the body, confidence and courage, unique energy and sensitivity, thought control. Now, these are good for any creative person, see, and I have found it in the responses of the people. So thank you very much. Now here I stop, and I hope that some other time I have more time with you so that I can also feel better. And thank you very much for patient here. Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt you, but that talk was really
Yes.
excellent. But we have constraints of time.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Vrushali madam.
Yes, yes, Dr. Nasai, yes. So, Dr. Bhogal, thank you so much for that. It's always such a pleasure to listen to you. Unfortunately, we are a little short on time today.
I can understand.
Yes. So, yeah, thank you again. We'll move on to our next speaker for the session, our last speaker, Sri Delson Armstrong. By his own admission, Sri Delson has dedicated his life to Dhamma. He is an independent teacher who teaches online and physical retreats around the world based on the suttas. He supports meditators on their journey and interacts with research institutions on neuroscience, cognitive behavioral therapy, and phenomenology of meditation. He writes books and provides interviews. So Sri Delson will speak to us on the roles of Brahma Viharas as a mean to attain samadhi. Delson, over to you.
Okay. Can you all hear me? Is it all good?
Yes, all good.
Okay, perfect. So I just want to
just give me a moment. Dr. Bhogal, can I request you to stop your screen share?
Sure.
Yes.
I will.
Yes, Delson ji, you can go ahead.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, I came in late, so I'm not sure how things are going here, but I'll just give a brief understanding of where I'm coming from and what I'm doing here. So I am basically representing, let's say, Buddhist thought and trying to figure out how that corresponds with yoga philosophy. There's a lot of interesting similarities between yoga and Buddhism in terms of experiences and the way that they use their language to describe these experiences. For example, in the Yoga Sutras, there are two mentions of what we call the Brahma Viharas in Buddhist meditation. And the Brahma Vihara meditation is consisting of four, you could call, emotional attitudes. That is loving kindness, compassion, empathetic joy, and equanimity. So the way I teach meditation is based on, as you mentioned, the suttas or sutras, which come from the Theravada tradition. And there it talks about how using the Brahma Viharas helps one to experience a state where the mind becomes utterly quiet. And then from that quiet mind, the mind experiences the awakening of intuition. And then from that awakening of intuition, the mind experiences what's known as Nirodha. So if you go back to the Yoga Sutras, I think it's 1.33 and then 2.23. In the first instance, it talks about how using the Brahma Viharas, that is to say, Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, and Upeksha, calms the mind and stills the chitta. And doing so, one experiences a state of nirodha. And then in, I think it's 2.23, it talks about how or 3.23, I should say. It talks about how these Brahma Viharas actually help one to experience their perfection, the powers of these different states, which is to say, one can actually influence one's surroundings by bringing up this feeling of loving kindness and then using this as a meditative object, and then allowing other beings in their vicinity to actually feel that way. So this is the practice that I primarily teach. And what I found is with the Brahma Viharas, people experience greater emotional resilience. That is to say that when you start off with this practice, there is a chance that people start to experience some resistance to it, because there's a lot of things that it opens up. There's a lot of trauma that opens up because people are meditating with loving kindness and they feel like they don't deserve loving kindness. They don't deserve feeling this kind of joy and happiness that arises from it. So what I prescribe is something known as forgiveness meditation. And that forgiveness meditation allows people to open up to that loving kindness. So this loving kindness, this Maitri or Metta, as it's known in Pali, allows one to really come into being a happy person, somebody who is accepting of all of their traits, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. And then by doing so, they start to experience karuna. In this case, karuna here is understood as being aware of others' suffering. That is to say that, in Buddhism, there is a concept of non-cruelty. That's one of the intentions, the right intentions in the Eightfold Path. And non-cruelty basically means that to be cruel would mean that you recognize another person's suffering, and even after having recognized their suffering, you add to their suffering. Because you see suffering in yourself and understand others are suffering, but then don't realize that instead of alleviating their suffering, you act out in vengeance or in anger or whatever it might be, and create suffering for them. So compassion is very much an important element here. And compassion allows one to experience the empathy with another being. And recognizing your own suffering in theirs and their suffering in yours, you become more aware of what is required for that moment when interacting with that person. And then that leads to what's known as mudita. Here, mudita is the joy, sharing in the joy of others' joy, specifically wholesome joy, which means obviously you wouldn't celebrate in the joy of people who are doing things that are harming others and themselves, but you celebrate in the joy of people who are experiencing wholesome activities. So joy, or empathetic joy, here is seen as an antidote for jealousy and envy, because jealousy arises when somebody sees somebody else being successful and is envious and wants what they want and feels unhappy towards them experiencing what they want. So empathetic joy is seen as an antidote towards jealousy. And then we have what's known as upeksha. And upeksha is, or upeka in Pali, is basically equanimity. That's the ability to be unagitated in difficult situations. And so this equanimity arises as a result of first bringing up loving kindness and sending it to yourself, and then sending it to 4 categories of beings, which includes your friends, family members, people who you might know, but not really are friends with, and then your difficult people, people who might consider you as an enemy or challenging or whatever it might be. And then that transcends to where you send it out to all beings, excuse me, send it out to all beings in all directions, without any discrimination. This results in an experience known as infinite space, which is a meditative state, and then into infinite consciousness or infinite awareness. Tied to this infinite awareness, there arises what's known as that empathetic joy, being happy for those people who are happy, all beings. So first you wish for their happiness, you wish for them to be free from suffering, and then you experience that happiness and are happy in it, happy for it. And as a result, that state of infinite consciousness leads to what's known as nothingness. The mind experiences a state of clarity where nothing arises at all. And there's just this pure awareness of nothing there. And tied to it is this feeling of equanimity. Now, another way of understanding equanimity is to see things as they actually are. In other words, you're not adding to whatever is being experienced with opinions, ideas, and concepts. You're only experiencing things as they actually are. And then from there, that equanimity tied to that experience of nothingness results in what is known as neither perception nor non-perception. This state of mind is very special because it's in terms of its quality and its experiential quality, it's a state where the mind is in kind of like a hypnagogic state. It's where the mind is experiencing very, very subtle perceptions within itself and starts to actually penetrate through what are known as the samskaras. And these samskaras are basically habit patterns that have been inherited through past actions and choices that continue to recondition how the mind views the world. So through this process of neither perception or non-perception, the mind becomes utterly quiet. And then from that quietude, there comes this intuition, which results in the mind experiencing what's known as, excuse me, Nirodha Samapatti. So Nirodha Samapatti is a state where all feeling and all perception and all consciousness ceases. You don't know that you are in that state until you come out of it. And as a result of coming out of that state, the mind experiences what we call bodhi, that is wisdom. It penetrates the nature of reality and understands how mind works, how we create our reality, and how perceptions arise. As a result of that, the mind lets go of any kind of greed, hatred, and delusion, which are the three poisons in Buddhism. So as a result, the mind experiences these stages of awakening. And these stages of awakening are basically getting to higher and higher states of emotional resilience, where the mind stops taking things personally, understands itself better. That is to say, it recognizes when maybe an inkling of anger might arise or an inkling of craving might arise, and is able to notice it, be aware of it, and then let it go almost automatically. And ultimately, the perfected state is where the mind has total emotional resilience. There is no more reactivity to situations, and the mind experiences freedom. There ends my talk.
Just please give me a moment. Yes, so should we take up some questions right now, Dr. Nasare, or would you like to give in your comments?
We'll take up some questions.
Okay, okay. Anybody? iPhone 13 Pro Max, you have a question? We'll take up questions for all three
Yes.
speakers. Yes.
2 participants have raised their hands.
Yes. Yes, Kaviriji, you have a question. You can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I have a question for Bogal sir, that he talked about the dhyana process. I mean,
Yes.
we all know that meditation and dhyana is a process that we, especially the yogis, that they do for ultimate liberation. What I, sorry?
No, please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So what I have read or heard from many other people, that you need a guru once you take this path on the ultimate truth, to find the ultimate truth or to go to the samadhi state. So these dhyana process or meditation apps that we see nowadays, are they like, are they capable of doing that, or these are some just for the bodily purpose, like to have the anger issues or some other ailments to cure something? And can you do that without a proper guidance of guru?
You see, only the best of gurus, the best of scriptures cannot give you the internal experience, what Shankaracharya has said, Adi Shankaracharya. Tatastita bodhayanti gurvo shrutayo yatha prajna eva taret vidvanam ishvara anugrihitaya. It means you need to be experiential your own way. Gurus can guide you and the Shrutis can guide you. But then it is you who has to experience with the help of Prajna. Prajna means a special kind of experiential phenomenon. And Ishvara Anugrihitaya. Then only the Ishvara Anugraha happens and then meditation happens. That is the classical approach by Shankaracharya.
Okay. So we can start with doing this and...
Yes, we have to start journey. And then slowly you know that you are just getting elevated and transcendence comes and meditation happens. But abhyas is necessary.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Beena ji, you had a question? Beena ji, can you unmute yourself and ask a question?
Namo Nama. These sessions are just amazing, and it doesn't cease to keep us amazing. All the three presenters have been extremely fantastic. My question is to Delson Armstrong ji. The question is that when we are getting into this phase of the Brahma Viharas, we are experiencing, the mind is experiencing these various aspects. Are we also going to be taking any of the Buddhist mantras to help us along the journey, or is it just done on a purely silent level?
So initially what happens is with this particular practice, you do start off with certain verbalizations in the mind. They are very basic statements to bring up the feeling of loving kindness. And those statements are things like, may I be happy, may I be well, may I be free of suffering. And you could use it as a mantra, but essentially what happens is, so in Buddhism, in Buddhist meditation practice, there are 8 levels of dhyana. And the first level has verbalizations. And then from there, you let go of the verbalizations and come to a more silent state of mind. That is to say, you don't intentionally use these mantras. So this is a more feeling-based meditation, which is to say it's more psychosomatic in nature. So when you feel the loving kindness, you're actually feeling a warm sensation in your heart center, let's say. And so that is facilitated through 3 components. One can be the verbalizations, like I just said, where you say, may I be happy, may I be well, may I be free of suffering. The second is to use gratitude, which is a big one. When you use gratitude, it brings up feelings of emotional wellness. And then your mind stabilizes in that feeling. The third is to actually bring up wholesome images. So images like holding a baby in your arms, or something that makes you feel that warm, fuzzy feeling in your heart center. So that's how you start the practice. But once you start that, and then you let go of those, excuse me, those verbalizations and those images, then it's just essentially observing things as they are. So the mind just flows through these levels of dhyana, goes through these states where it experiences greater amounts of bliss and happiness and joy, experiences certain vibrations in the body. And then from there, it starts to experience greater clarity of mind, less agitation and activity in the mind. And then it goes into the formless states of mind. That is to say, you're no longer feeling the body, you're more in the mind where you're experiencing infinite space, infinite consciousness, and so on and so forth.
So it's just a positive affirmations, the feel of it, and then going into the Sakshi part.
That's right.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay. We have one question in the chat box for Dr. Jayaraman. Kindly clarify what kind of kumbhaka should be followed in Sitkari Pranayama. Dr. Jayaraman.
Yes, in Sitkari Pranayama, it is Antah Kumbhaka only. Inhale the breath and hold it within. In all the 8 Kumbhakas, it is Antah Kumbhaka only.
Okay, thank you. And this one is for again Delson Ji. It's quite difficult to wish good for someone who is not good to you. How do you practically deal with that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And that's very common that I get. So the thing is, as I mentioned before, sometimes it becomes difficult to even feel loving kindness towards yourself because there's a lot of judgment and criticism that you have about yourself, and there might be a lot of pent up anger and resentment towards yourself and towards another. And so we start with baby steps. We start with small steps. We start with first loving kindness to ourselves. So that's why it begins with saying, may I be happy, may I be well, may I be free of suffering. And even if that doesn't work, then I give them what's known as sort of like a remedial meditation practice, which is known as forgiveness practice, which is, you're forgiving your past actions, you're forgiving yourself for things that you might have done wrong, you feel guilty about that you're holding on to. Or you might have resentment towards another. And so you start to use statements to help you forgive the other person. Now, forgiveness here is not about getting forgiveness from another person or giving forgiveness to another person or to yourself. It's about being aware of where your attachments lie, being aware of where your resentments lie, and then dealing with them in a way that allows you to be at peace with them. When that happens, then the flow of loving kindness, of metta, happens quite naturally. And then when that happens and you experience the metta to yourself, what naturally happens is it widens the sphere of influence towards your friends, your family, towards neutral people, and ultimately towards difficult people. At that point, whoever it might be that might have caused us harm, we come to terms with that and we say, you know what, whatever they did came out of their own suffering. And so I wish them well, and I wish that they are free from that suffering. So from there comes that karuna bhava, that state of compassion, of recognizing your own suffering and empathizing with the other, that, yeah, they too were suffering. So it starts with baby steps.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you. We'll take a couple of questions before we take the chairperson's comments. Shobha ji, you had a question. You've raised your hand.
Yes, thank you. I have a question. For Dr. Bhogal. Sir, which is the simplest way to describe the difference / mutual relation between Hatha Yoga and Raja Yoga?
Yes. Hatha Yoga is body telling mind to behave, and it works. Patanjali Yoga, the mind is telling body to behave in a nutshell. So one is the chitta oriented practice, the other one is prana oriented. In fact, both are good, because without Raja Yoga, Hatha Yoga is incomplete, and without this Hatha Yoga, Raj Yoga is incomplete. Both are mutually complementary. That is what scripture says. Even Dhirendra Samhita says that you have to practice the kriyas, Shuddhi kriyas, in experiential way. What a wonder. Well, that is Hatha Yoga text. That means there is no such fight. But then the beginning is we start with Chitta and they start with the Prana. In fact, both afterwards interchange, Chitta Prana interaction.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Dr. Bogle. We have one last question. Vandana, would you like to ask your question? You raised your hand, Vandana ji.
Yes, sir. My question is from Bhogle, sir. Sir, if you have gone some experiences I think one question was earlier that you have gone some experiences, you want to forgive, you want to forget, but then how to go into pratyahar? Means meditation is not easy, dharana is not easy, but pratyahar sometimes it is difficult. So
yes, we have certain techniques available in Vasishtha Samhita. And this is the best pratyahar. Ashtadashasu yad vayor marma sthaneshu dharanam sthanata samakrishya sa pratyahara cha uttamaha. This is uttam pratyahar is when there are 18 marmas in the whole body, you have to feel them as you breathe in, feel, as you breathe out, you feel. And then ultimately you feel that you go inward pratyahar. The simplest pratyahara technique is you have to, that's what Siddha Siddhanta Paddhati says. One of the Shodas Adhar is you have to feel the touch of air at the tip of the tongue. This is Adhar. That means you get rid of all obesity and all that slavery towards eatable kind of things, you know. So that, and there are 5 different kind of pratyaharas are there into one related with the all indriyas. For example, at the nose, tip of the nose, if you feel, so you get rid of the slavery of all that olfactory kind of things, and then tongue, then all tasty kind of things, and then if you feel the uvula, that is the kakua, what we call padjeev in Marathi. So there, if you concentrate, then it is associated with the eyes. Maybe you improve your eyesight, but then you are no more slave to the eyesight things, objects of the eyes, but you become master. And the 4th one is the middle of the tongue, touch sensation. We are enslaved by touch sensation, you know, the touch of the tongue, touch, very different. So there, if we pay attention, then we get rid of that. And the last one is Shravana. We become slave to Shravan. You might have seen some people are listening songs, oh my God, it is good. But then too much is too much, you know, ati tithe mati, you know. So to come out of that, you have to just feel at the root of the tongue. So there are such methods are available. If you make use of them, they work, and we don't have to ask how we should have pratyahara. We have replete, our scriptures are replete with such kind of methods. Only thing that we need to have time to look at them and observe and then practice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now we can go ahead to the chairperson's comments. Dr. Madhvi Narsai.
So hello everyone. This was a thoroughly enlightening session, and we have 3 speakers in this session. We had Professor Jayaraman, who discussed about practice and precept of yoga. So and he introduced a very important commentary, which is the Jyotsna commentary on the Hatha Yoga Pratipika. So how commentaries play a role in clarifying that which is ambiguous is something we have understood, and the students of yoga should also pay attention to the commentaries which are discussed in the commentaries discussing various texts. So at the same time, I felt that he was speaking about the pedagogy of yoga also. So how should yoga be taught? That was also very important. So it was very much pertaining to the theme of the seminar, which is theory and practice. So practice and precept. So it is not just bare theory which somebody is saying, but how is that theory applicable in day-to-day teaching was a very big takeaway which we have from the session by Professor Dr. Jayaraman. Then we had the session by Professor R.S. Bhogal. And he was speaking on Dhyan, and also he clarified the difference between what is Hatha Yoga and what is Raja Yoga, and at the same time seeing how these two disciplines merge within each other. So when we say about Indian darshanas, the beauty of Indian darshanas is not that they are watertight compartments. One darshana becomes supplementary to the other darshana. So similarly, the classifications which are there, the different schools which emerge out from one darshana, the sub schools and sub schools, they are also not to be treated as mere watertight compartments, but they need, but for understanding what is Hatha Yoga, you require a background of Raja Yoga. For understanding what is Raja Yoga, you require a background of Hatha Yoga. So this was something which is very, very, very important, which he has taken up. And actually, I would say that Dhyan is a very abstract concept, but through appropriate words, he has made this topic accessible to all the participants of the seminar. I thank you very much for this. I thank Professor Jayaraman also for such a nice exposition. Then we had the paper by Professor Delson Armstrong. So it was on how Buddhist meditative techniques are helpful in conducting dhyan, in conducting meditation, and also how is the philosophy of Karuna and Maitri very important. So it is not that you have to restrict to loving your own self, but you have to love others. And therefore, there's a very biblical saying, love thy neighbor. And that is very difficult because we are always in the mode of competing with our neighbors. We are always in the mode of, in the workplace, we are in the mode of competing with our colleagues and with our seniors and juniors. So to inculcate the feeling of appreciation, to inculcate the feeling of empathy, to inculcate the feeling of joy, bliss, not restricting to oneself, but give it to the society which is around you, is a very important takeaway which we have from the talk by Delson Armstrong. So on behalf of the Department of Sanskrit, University of Mumbai, I thank all the speakers immensely for their thought-provoking and insightful talk. And I hope that these talks would be published. And this will also be a very important contribution of the department to the field of yoga. So I would say that very shortly you can send your publishable drafts. Without taking permission of Shakuntala madam, I'm saying this, but I know that she will agree. So thank you one and all for your beautiful presentations, and also the questions raised by the participants were also significant. So thank you all of you. Over to Vrushali madam.
Thank you, Dr. Nasare. This has been a really interesting and very informative session. Many thanks to the speakers, Dr. Jayaraman, Dr. Bhogle, and Dr. Bhogal, and Dr. Delsinji, and the participants alike. Your questions were just very thought-provoking. We shall now end this session, and we will group back at 2 p.m. for the valedictory session. So please do join in, and thank you very much again. Thank you.